I hate to say on the subject matter that you were just talking about, not that we want to have that discussion live, but because I very well could be wrong, but I think I might support him in that position.
The Gator? All right, we got to have a little bit of this discussion.
Well, that's why I'm
I,
scared to
the
go
school,
there. But I don't know enough to say, but because I've only had bits and pieces, so
right.
I don't really want to 100% say that I'm there. But if what I read correctly was, I might be on that side.
Well, I don't completely disagree with you, and I don't completely disagree with this LA Gator scholarship program school choice thing based on what I've read so far. I'm far from an expert on it. But here's what I can say. I think the state needs to get back out of the school management business, and it needs to be more local and parish wide, much like it was when I went to school, when our school system was arguably much better. Now, maybe I had a sheltered deal and just happened to end up going to some really good public schools, but I know that in Lincoln Parish, especially back during the 80s and well, I graduated in 89, but during the 80s and into the early 90s, Ruston High School and Lincoln Parish school systems were phenomenal. And it wasn't until sometime in the 90s that the state really started exerting control. So that's where I oppose it. You know, we're all supposed to be conservatives until we want a socialist program or a social type program. And that's what I see this as. Not specifically that program, but in general.
Well, okay, I gotta.
I don't want our legislator, benevolent overlords in Baton Rouge managing our school system any more than they already do because it is arguably, by most people's accounts, not gotten any better. And I would argue maybe in some cases it seems to have gotten worse. So, and it's because they're dependent on the money from the feds, and the
Oh,
local school systems are dependent, and school boards are dependent on the money from the state, which is dependent on money from the feds. And it's just like this unholy alliance.
okay, wait a minute. Hang on a second. So what you're saying is that you're conservative in your nature and you're against having more government involved in all of that. So therefore you want it to go back to the way it is and that the only game in town is government funded public education.
Is less state and federal control and exertion, and I would argue extortion on the money end.
Okay,
Yes.
if so here's maybe the rub. And again, I am not speaking from an educated position, but if I think I'm correct in about the Gator program, if I think that allows families or people who approve to get, let's say, the monies that would have went towards paying for that education in a public school system, but it goes to the family to give them the option to be able to send the kid to a possibly
Private
a
school,
private
right.
school or a homeschool type situation or thing or an alternative thing. In which I got to tell you, I don't have a problem with that.
I'm not 100% opposed to that. On that part, I agree. The school choice part of it, I agree. But here's the rub again: is well, okay, everybody that pays property taxes and ad valorem taxes and everything else to those school boards, well, they're paying it to the school board, but that money is getting diverted over to, I mean, there's state money that is getting diverted over to potentially the private schools. I'm for the school choice. I'm just less for the state or Baton Rouge continuing to be more and more involved in it. That's my biggest rub. I don't know what the perfect
Well,
solution is, but
yeah.
I don't
Well,
think this is it.
even if you did away with this, guess what? You're going to have the same thing. You're going to have Baton Rouge and government
I,
100%
well, you
in
know
it.
my feelings about that as well, but we'll save that for
I,
another show.
yeah.
No
Oh,
ducks
every
tonight.
everybody, hang on a second.
Oh, we got to talk ducks too. This is going to turn
Yeah.
into an outdoor show.
Hey, Josh Goins, I am live on Bossier Watch, and I'm taking your call right now as we speak. Say hi to everybody on the phone, on the show.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Not
So
much, Mr. Goins.
I think the people of Bossier Parish would much rather hear about data centers and the city of Benton. What did you say? Splashing in people's faces
No,
than ducks
splatter,
tonight.
splatter.
Splattering. Okay. So I'll have to call you back, my friend.
All right, brother.
And for those of you that don't know, Duke and I also, we hadn't done one in a while, but we do some podcasts over on the Outdoor News as well. We hadn't done one in a while, but we absolutely stirred the pot up, mainly Duke and his buddy, Mr. Josh Goins, that was on the phone over the corn debacle. Flooded corn with ducks. So there's that too. We don't just stir the pot here, we just do it everywhere. All right.
Oh no, we do it. We do it everywhere. And look, I gotta. Let me see here. Let me see if I can share this to you. Sent. To show you the reach of what we've gotten stirred up there a little bit. I just wanted to see if
Well,
my
I want you to know that when I was at the last Benton town meeting videoing it and you were there, everybody was impressed because your phone announced that Senator Kennedy's office was calling. A dude got up to and just left us high and dry at the meeting, and all these people like, oh, he's big time now.
you heard that?
Everybody heard it, Duke.
Okay, and
Three people commented to me.
I've got to apologize to everybody. Okay, so I got a new phone. I got the newest, greatest iPhone 17 Pro Max. I mean, I always look, I buy cheap. I'm conservative, right? I'll go buy a refurbished XR off of eBay, but my wife wanted to treat me, and so she got me the upgrade thing and got me a 17 Pro Max. She said this will put you ahead of Rex. You know,
Oh, yeah.
like be jealous. And it's like, oh yeah, okay, well that sounds great. So I ain't figured out how to turn the airplane mode on it. I know a lot of y'all are like, look, I'm not the most tech savvy guy. I do better than most, but I'm not. I couldn't figure out how to turn. So I pushed that little button and I turned it down as much as possible, and I thought that was good, right? Well, then all of a sudden, I get this phone call, and it's Senator Kennedy's, series.
And it
You
announced
heard it.
it.
And it announced it, and everybody in the whole room, and the mayor says, let's everybody turn our cell phones off. And the only thing I knew to do was just to escape. I just had to get out of the room.
I have you on video escaping the meeting. So,
Because I don't like doing that. I hate doing that to people, or I hate when people do that and they don't turn their phones off. And it finally got me. I'm sorry,
yeah,
everybody. I
finally caught up to you,
apologize.
but it's okay. All right, so let's talk about or discuss the topics we're going to talk about tonight. Let's do the quick intro deal. We're not going to do the countdown. We've pretty much canceled that, after 300 million shows or however many we've done. And let's kind of jump into it. So we've got apparently more drama with the Bossier Arts Council, and I just gonna say there were some fireworks at the city council meeting Tuesday, so we've got that video queued up, and we're gonna review that. And you went to the police jury meeting. Was it yesterday?
I did, and I've got to tell you, it was a really great meeting. I thought it was productive, and one that I think folks would benefit from watching. But we'll condense it a little bit.
Perfect. And we got to mention the Benton splatter. So,
Yeah, because I got to tell you, I done got my feelings hurt a little bit over this, and
have you really?
oh yeah, I feel slighted a little bit.
Oh, you're kind of you're maybe a little bit kind of like Miss Carr and the collateral damage, but we'll talk about that here in a few
Oh,
minutes.
look,
And
I
see
feel you,
what
Miss Carr, because I'm getting the collateral damage out of this.
and we've got to show some AI generated, I guess we could call it fan memes. I don't know if she considers herself a fan right now. So we'll talk about all that. Let's do a quick, this is going to be a 30-second intro, folks. Y'all go you better make some quick popcorn, make a quick drink, share the show out, and let everybody know that we're on our soapbox. If you agree or disagree, come on, jump in the comments. We will be right back, and we'll start off with Ben Splatter. Over 25 years in the mortgage business. Pelican Training and Consulting. Reach out to Julie Ferris. Smarter Geek, making technology easier. And folks sharing information and watching out. Now, grab your popcorn and a drink. Here we go. Apparently, I'm getting a little rusty with my software and clicking and IT abilities. I didn't have the sound turned up on that.
Well, I mean, I had to figure out where the mute button. Bo was on guard and started yapping, so I didn't hear anything you said if you said anything.
Yeah, and folks, if y'all haven't figured it out yet, we are far from professionals. We consider ourselves amateur political pundits who just get on here and get on our soapbox for an hour or two or three. Generally used to be Tuesday night, but now every Thursday night. Every now and then we skip a few. But anyway, so we want to welcome everybody to the show. I see, looks like Cassie Rogers is in here. Miss John Glover is. Barry Butler's here. Charlie and Judy are here. Judy Stewart's here. Who else? Val Baker's here. Who is that? Bobby Ann Scott English is in here. So yeah, y'all sound off in the comments. Here's the way this works if you're new to the show. We don't mind whatever comments. If you agree or disagree with us, that's fine. A couple of easy rules which I hadn't gone over in a while. We've only had to ban like one person ever, and the only reason for that is it was seriously vulgar language, which, look, we're all adults. Every now and then we're going to cuss a little bit, but we don't want any seriously vulgar language and no obvious trolling. But other than that, it's a free-for-all in the comments. Just remember, this is a live show, and we may show your comments like we'll show Miss Glover. See, her comment, she is now witnessing the infamous BossierWatch show. So your comment may get shown on the screen. So just remember, if you put it in there, we're liable to show it, and then it's there for eternity in the archives of the interwebs. All right. So with all that said.
That's a good group of people there. Cassie Rogers, I see you've been hounding around North Carolina a little bit. I hadn't seen Cassie around, and that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. Where are we going to, are we going to splatter first, or are we going to data center? What are we going to do? Bossier City.
Let's get the splatter out of the way. Then we'll either do data center or the Bossier Arts Council, Bossier City crap, because there were some real fireworks between Chris Smith and Brian Hammonds, who, they were bestest buds, I thought. But they had a few fireworks between them. So we'll pick whichever one of those we want to go next. But I want to start off with this. All right. I don't even know where to start. Let's start with the Benton Town meeting, the last or most recent Benton Town meeting. If y'all have not gone and watched that, we've got it on the channel. I went up there, took the camera, videoed the whole meeting. Duke and I were joking about it on the phone deal before the break. But anyway, go watch that meeting. Listen to the comments. And I'm just going to straight up say it. Some of the comments were just downright asinine and stupid. They really were. By one particular alder person. And I was sitting there going, am I really listening to this drivel? Of all people, it was towards the town attorney, or the attorney that they're trying to hire as the town attorney. And he was there for the kind of interview meeting. Look, I don't know this guy from Adam. He's apparently from or practices in Shreveport. He's not originally from Benton, but that doesn't matter. But he seemed like a good guy and for an attorney. And look, he looked up some statutes real quick on the fly and was able to, relay some information to the council. But one particular alder person, that darn Tiffany Manning, she was just grilling him like she was the HR person interviewing him for a job. And it just got to the point of ridiculous. And he made...
But wait a minute. Isn't that the job of a council person or whatever to vet people?
It is, but sources say that the previous town attorney they had, who was it? Chance Nairn, and even the one before that, was it Stinson that was before that, or the other guy? Not Stinson, the other guy. Anyway, that certain alder persons up there had the tendency to like blow the attorney's phone up. And so this new guy made it clear, look, here, he and the mayor had discussed billing and all that. And look, they're limited, I think, by statute or by the AG's office and what they can bill per hour. But he's like, look, once we go over that, then I'm going to bill per hour. So you reach out to me. It's liable to be billable time. I will let you know. And then when the vote came, the same council person, I'm not even going to be coy about it, Tiffany Manning, who was grilling him. I mean, this went on for like 10 or 15 minutes. You can go watch the video. She votes no for him. So she literally voted that I guess she wanted the town to be without an attorney to advise them on correct legalities of things she likes to discuss, is the only thing I can imagine. Now, I don't know. She didn't say that. I'm just kind of guessing, but you put two and two together, it's pretty hard not to figure that out.
Well,
anyway, it was frustrating. I'm glad you got to skip that meeting.
Look, I don't know. I just want to get to the most important thing is I don't know that blue is my best color. I'm
queuing that one up now.
I'm damaged goods as a result of this. And I have been kind of, should I say AWOL on this subject and what's going on in Benton? I mean, I don't get me wrong. I've kind of known, things were kind of going on up there, but the next thing I know, I'm in a meme. That sounds like something you would do.
All right. So let me get these queued up. So let me switch screens here. Let's see. Publish, back to live mode. All right. So as some of you have probably seen, this is the show graphic that we posted for the event tonight, for the live show tonight. And we're going to clarify completely what the splatter face is in reference to here in just a minute. And the splatter of whatever it is coming out of a cup by some lady named Carr with Dr. Tiffany in the background. And I don't know, that guy kind of resembles James Friday on a hospice bed back there. So we'll explain what that means. But I posted this at like 3:30, 4 o'clock. And for the last hour and a half, I've been trying to get ready for the city council portion of the show. And it's been just, the comments have flown off the wall. So Ms. Carr's daughter is apparently, her name is Jasmine Carr, apparently took issue with the political humor and political satire in this cartoon and thought that we were blaming her mama for it. Well, so touche to Jasmine. Let me, she got to cranking away on AI. And I got to say, this is awesome.
That is magnificent. I mean, that rates right up there with your stuff.
Look, Duke, I even have hairy cleavage. If I had cleavage, it would be hairy. So the AI even got my hairy cleavage. I am impressed.
Yeah, but I'm a redhead in a blue dress with flowers all over it.
Well, maybe if you had hair, maybe your hair would come back red. I don't know.
I feel slighted. I mean, I like your dress better, and you got big boobs.
Yeah, I got it going on up there.
I mean,
this is probably the greatest fan meme we have had. And look, it harkens back to the days, I don't know, many shows ago when we did our Thelma and Louise video with Duke and I driving the car off the cliff, which we kind of figuratively do every time we do this show. But I got to say, that one was pretty good. So I want to show one more. So let's put that one over here. Oh yeah, this is great. I think I'm going to ask her if we can use this for the thumbnail on Facebook. This is great.
Yeah, I think we should.
And then of course, here's the other one. We're just after the likes and the money and all that, which, we make a grand total of about 25 cents a show. Is how much, we are monetized on Facebook and on YouTube. We don't make any bones about that. We make just enough money each month on the monetization to not cover the software that we use, because we use paid software to do all this. But anyway, I thought this was great. Now, the only problem is, and I pointed out to Miss Jasmine Carr in the comments, You might not can read it, but in the little selfie stick that I'm holding up with the phone, it shows 35,000 plus views on the little selfie stick. I got to correct her. The post that we made about Tiffany with the doctor's office with James Friday, I'll explain that in a minute. That one's over 82,000 views, not boosted. That's just organic. So, and look,
Well,
Alicia Bartlett Hall says, I don't blame her for defending her mama. Look, I don't blame her either.
absolutely not. And
Yeah,
I like the way she did it. I
it's
100%
great.
do.
Yeah,
It
it's
is.
great. So, now let's explain what this was all about. So I'm going to stay in screenshot mode here. So give me just a second.
But
Let me cue this up. Go ahead.
But while you're queuing, I would tell Miss Carr, that, and I hear that all the time. People saying stupid stuff like, oh, it's you trying to make money and making yourself popular or whatever. Oh, bull crap. Let me tell you a story. Just this week, somebody had a problem within Bossier Parish. And guess what? They said, you need to go talk to Rex and Duke. You need to go talk to Rex and Duke. And I'm not going to say any names, but they come in and they tell me their story. And this happens regular. I mean, I know you get it, phone calls and stuff,
Mm,
but had somebody come and visit with me and they're honest with me and they tell me their story or whatever. And they said, and when they told me they told me to tell you, to come talk to y'all, but they said, don't get out there public, that, don't be public about that you're friends with them and all that, because, you'll be viewed a certain way if the public or people knows that, you're dealing with them. So my point to Miss Carr is we do this not for 25 cents a show, and we do this with knowledge that there's a consequence to doing it. And I
yeah.
can promise you, people who should do business with me don't do business with me. They're friends in private, but they're not friends in public, and they certainly don't do business with me. It costs us to do this. It costs us a lot,
Oh, yeah.
and
Oh,
more
yeah,
than
it
you
does.
know.
Well, and I want to say one other thing too. It's not just about the views, it's the principles that we have kind of held since day one. We are non discriminatory in who we call out. I mean, look, we both consider Chris Smith and Brian Hammond's friends, as far as that goes. Not that we go hang out or have dinner with them, I don't think, or I know I don't. But we'll call them out. As a matter of fact, we're going to do a little bit of that later on. Look, James Friday right there. He is the father of Lisa Johnson Friday, who is president of the Chamber of Commerce, which honestly kind of precipitated all this. But I've called him out because of the way he was acting at the meetings procedurally. And look, I got to say, the last meeting, I gave him a little bit of credit on the last show that we did, but I thought he did a much better job at that last meeting. So we don't always get on here and just call people out. But it goes back to what we've said all along. People don't want to see the flower garden, they want to see the train wreck. So if you're here to watch this show for us to paint an absolutely positive picture the entire time, I'm telling you, this is not the show for you. It's not what we do. You can go watch the local news for that matter, or whatever. So from day one, since Duke and I started this, let's see, was it 2020, 2021? Anyway, from day one, we said what we were going to do and we followed up with it. And I would say, I'm of course patting both of us on the back along with help from a lot of other people. But I can honestly say that we have made a difference, good or bad, in Bossier politics in those years, along with everybody that's watching, everybody that emails and calls their council person or their police juror or their legislator or whatever. We have made at least a little bit of a difference in Bossier politics. And that's what we're here to do. All right.
Yeah,
So,
that's what it's about, 100%. And there's a lot of people along the way, just like all of y'all watching, that your contribution and kind of following along and helping. None of it could have been done without you.
yeah. And
So
look, we've said all from day one, somebody else wants to start a podcast, we'll be glad to help you. Whether you want to do politics and the same thing that we do, or you want to do something different, we're more than glad to help somebody else get started. There needs to be more voices. Look, love Shreveport Bossier, Wade Lovelace. He's been trying to angle into the politics game. Duke, you and I met with him in the spring of 2024, and then he ghosted us. But that's okay if he wants to get into politics and start doing a podcast. He's got a huge following. Let him get into it. We need more voices.
It's funny that you say that, Love Shreveport Bossier, because I'm fixing to call Love Shreveport Bossier out here in just a few minutes. He has a much bigger following than us.
Yeah. Huge.
But if he's going to get into it, he needs to be accurate in what he's putting out there. And maybe he got bad information, but either way, we're going to put it out here and show he's putting out information that's not correct.
Right.
And we're going to show it here in just a little while when we start talking about the data centers.
All right, so let's get back to what prompted all this splatter face and what this actually means, so people know what the heck is going on if you hadn't been following our post, and that's okay if you hadn't. So this was a post that Lisa Friday Johnson made, and we shared out on Bossier Watch. And so her post was, that's Lisa Friday Johnson, that is the Benton mayor, James Friday, her dad. He said, it's our official spring fly-in with the Shreveport Chamber. After a long day of traveling, we made it to D.C. Some of our group is still driving. Some are delayed with flights, but Mayor James Friday and I have made it. Blah, blah, blah. Next step is to congressional meetings, meetings with the U.S. Chamber, meetings with Amazon, I think it was HQ, about the data center. Looking forward to learning what is coming to our hometown of Bossier and in Louisiana, in this part of the state. Anyway. So we shared this out, and, I put the comment up, said, as we've said over and over, we're not anti-data center. Interesting to see the Bossier Chamber of Commerce and Benton Mayor James Friday in D.C. in part to discuss more data. We've discussed the data centers extensively. We're going to discuss it some more tonight when we get to that part of the show. Well, lo and behold, out of the blue, this was not on my bingo card, Tiffany Manning makes this comment. She is the alderwoman for District 2 in Benton, Louisiana. So if you're not familiar with small towns like that, have alder people, and they're kind of the equivalent of city council people. All right. She says, and I'm quoting here, let me blow this up even bigger. She says, and I'm quoting, I'm glad you shared this information because the mayor pro tem didn't know. Let me see how the employees' checks going to get signed because nobody called to inform me. Okay. Well, if you don't know, because she's made it known several times in posts and probably at some of the meetings, she is the mayor pro tem. But she's alluding to the city employees are not going to get paid because the mayor is out of town, which he's probably back in town by now. And anyway, it was just ridiculous. All right. And I was like, after listening to her at the last meeting, that's it. She's on my radar now. So that led to, let me switch screens again, and feel free to cut in here at any point. And I got to say, I know a couple of town employees are watching, so let us know if your checks were signed by Tiffany Carr.
How would I cut in? I'm like Miss Carr here.
Collateral damage. You didn't have any idea all this was going on. Poor Miss Carr. we'll get to that. We're getting to that. So y'all folks, just bear with the silly drama for just a little bit. But honestly, look, this is how you get stuff done and changed. You just shine a light on it. And again, I don't have anything personally against Tiffany or Miss Carr or James Friday or anybody else, whatever, except David Montgomery. But they're politicians, and so we need to shine a light on what they're doing politically. If they're going to the grocery store, I don't care. But if it's something concerning politics, all right. So I posted.
Okay, wait. What if they're going to the grocery store in a Tahoe?
Well, that I may have an issue with. Hello, Tahoe, Tommy.
Okay.
All right. Just to be fair.
Go ahead.
All right, so this is Louisiana Revised Statute 33:405, which is part of the Lawson Act of statutes, blah, blah, blah. And I've got it kind of highlighted here, but just to breeze through it, if the mayor is unable to attend a meeting of the Board of Aldermen, the mayor pro tempore shall preside at the meeting in the absence of the mayor. Any such person shall have all rights and powers granted to the mayor with regard to presiding over the meeting. That's it. Now, what I have highlighted in red and yellow here is if the mayor is unable to carry out the duties of the office of the mayor by reason of physical or mental disability as determined by a licensed physician, the mayor pro tempore shall perform all the duties of the mayor for the duration of any such disability. If the vacancy occurs in the office of the mayor pro tem shall perform all the duties of the mayor until such time as a vacancy is filled as otherwise provided by law. Vacancy does not mean he went on a trip to D.C. Vacancy means he resigned, he passed away, or whatever that may be. Next one. The mayor pro tem shall have no additional authority to perform the duties of the mayor except as provided in this subsection or upon the written consent of the mayor. Now, maybe James Friday gave her written consent before he left. I don't know. We'd probably do a public request for that. I don't think he did. I don't think he did.
No, I'm guessing not. But I mean, he just went on a trip.
He just went on a trip. So that prompted.
Was there anything that wasn't taken care of? I mean, and this is what I really got to know. I mean, how did he end up in the hospital when he takes a trip to D.C.?
Well, and Chris Redford has said that according to what he's found out, that any alderman can act as a co-signer on the account. Now, I don't know if that's true yet or not. Maybe Redford will, here he is. The checks were signed by another alderman. Okay. So, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments that any of the aldermen or all of the aldermen can be co-signers on the check. Apparently, the checks require 2 signers. All right. All right, so let me know in the comments. So, and Stephanie Collier is also in the comments. She says no checks were signed by Tiffany. Joey Plunkett says, and he works for the town of Benton, I believe. He says, I'll say this, I picked up my check today, and the way she's spelling her name these days doesn't align with anything I learned in school. All right. So I got the minions fired up in the AI factory, cartoon factory, and lo and behold, look what it popped out. There is Dr. Tiffany and a close resemblance to Mayor Friday. Just to let everybody know, Mayor Friday is fine. Apparently, nothing's wrong with him whatsoever. This is just political humor and satire. But, she's giving him comfort now that she is a doctor. And he is apparently on his Benton hospice bed. Oh, and look, he's even got a little badge with you and I on there.
Okay, well, I don't understand this. How does he in the hospital, and how has she become a doctor? I'm missing it.
Well, she said that she's got to be the signer on it, and by extension, reading the statute. Okay, reading the statute, he would have to either have a licensed physician declare him not fit to be able to do the office, and then she would advance to the mayor. Well, the way I see it, she must be a doctor because she was worried about fulfilling all the duties of the mayor. So I don't know. Maybe she's a doctor. Maybe she's not.
Okay.
All right.
I'll go with it.
But this gets even further. Again, folks, this is silly drama. This is silly drama, but it gets even better. So Chris Redford, so bear with us, folks. This is again. So all right. So if y'all don't follow Chris Redford, you should. He's a former, I think he's a former journalist or news anchor. Was it Channel 3, Chris? You were a news anchor for, or journalist or reporter? Anyway, so, and Redford lives in the town of Benton. Like he lives a couple of blocks from Benton Town Hall. So anyway, he's been on the Benton Town Council and some of the shenanigans going on for a while. And some of you may have seen some of his posts on it. He's got the Redford News Network, and sometimes he does it on his personal profile. But anyway, Redford made a comment, and I'm paraphrasing here, but basically someone had seen, I guess it was Tiffany, with some sheriff's deputies at her house or at Miss Carr's house late one evening or something like that. And I also have to say, sources say that Tiffany has the Benton PD bring her information for the town meetings to her house. Like, I don't guess she can even go by and pick them up. Now, somebody can confirm that. Maybe Stephanie can, or Redford can, or whatever in the comments if y'all know that for a fact. But anyway, so at some point, Redford made a comment in all these threads about that. So here's where the splatter face comes in. So this is Tiffany Manning saying this in her official capacity as Alderwoman District 2. You can see it right there. It's still in the comments. She says, Chris Redford, someone should ask why are you stalking me? And by all means, get your facts right. It was after 8 p.m. that I was at Miss Carr's house. You want to know why? Because I can be. And here's where it gets interesting. She says, you want to tell people why? I'll let Miss Carr splatter your face with that. What the hell does that mean?
Okay.
Is this another
don't
see
know.
you next Tuesday moment?
I don't know, but it resulted in me in a dress with red hair.
Yes. That's how silly
all
all
I
this
know.
is.
That's all. I don't get it. I ain't got nothing against redheads. One of my daughters is a redhead. But I'm just saying, how did I end up in this with a dress and red hair?
So, look, I'm not up on urban slang or whatever this is. I don't know. Somebody try to explain this to me, but I thought that is a grand name for the show, Splatterface. And so that, of course, prompted our show graphic, which spiraled out of control in the last hour before the show into comments left and right. So I want to be clear because I told Virginia Carr, or Jasmine Carr, I'm sorry, Miss Carr's daughter, that I would make it crystal clear. Miss Carr did not make those splatter comments. This is political humor and satire directed at Tiffany Manning because she is the one that made the comment. Kind of like you do. Miss Carr is just the collateral damage from Tiffany.
I don't know. I guess we are just too old to be doing social media shows like this or whatever because Haygood says that's a racist dog whistle, and I don't know what he's talking about. And Danielle Marriott's talking about her husband getting beat up in the parking lot. Oh, I know where that originated with Juliana Parks and somebody else. I mean, but I admittedly I was oblivious to that urban slang or whatever. I had no idea. It was a learning moment for me, and I appreciate that. See, I owe Juliana Parks a debt of gratitude because I had no idea.
I
had no idea.
honestly had no idea either. It was news to us too. So Jasmine Carr is in the comments, and she's affirming or confirming the Benton packets get delivered to all aldermen by the Benton Police Department. It's been like that since my mom's been an alderman for the past 12 years. Okay, that's interesting. Personally, I think the aldermen should go by the town hall and pick them up. But if y'all have the police department, do it. But then again, I'm sitting here thinking, so this goes even further. So,
Why don't we email stuff? I mean, good grief! What
it's
the
not
police
hard.
should not. I don't think police should be doing that.
I've made this
Just my
offer
opinion.
before. I'll make it again. Stephanie, you're in the comments and probably still watching. I know James Friday will, if he's not watching right now, will probably watch the show too. I will come up there and help y'all as an IT guy perfectly free so Tiffany can't raise hell about it when y'all are discussing the budget. I will help y'all for free implement any technology that you need to. Free of charge. Not a problem. And show y'all how to do all this. And work with the alder men and women to make it as easy as possible because it's an expense that could be made much more efficient and you could decrease the expense and the cost to do that. So anyway, the only thing I want to stress is one more thing. So they're having the police department deliver the packets, okay? But here's the rub with that. At the Benton Town meeting, the last one that I videoed, if you listen and watch that meeting, there was an ordinance put forth to raise the alderman's pay 70% from like $430 or $400 or whatever it was to around $700. It was about 70%. Tiffany Manning voted yes for that. Okay? 70% pay raise. Maybe they deserve it. I don't know. They have one meeting a month. Then whatever else the aldermen do during the month. Okay? So, hey, look, I think politicians should get reimbursed for a little bit of their time and their expense. I'm okay with that part of it. But the problem is she approved a 70% increase for the alder persons, alder women and men. When it came time for a 7% increase for the chief of police of Houghton, she voted no. When it came time to vote on hiring a town attorney, because right now they're without one, she voted no. Now, look, like I told you in the beginning when we first met you, Tiffany, we call out everybody. We literally gave you the roadmap to help you with any of the shenanigans you think are going on with the town council or, or the town administration, whatever. If there is, there is. If there isn't, there isn't. But we gave you the roadmap of how to do that and how to affect that change. You've chosen to ignore it. We even invited you on the show. Crickets so far. So I'm extending the invitation again, just like we do every politician, every bureaucrat. You're more than welcome to come on the show and explain your position. You can come on by yourself. We'll invite Redford on. We'll invite Stephanie on if she wants to. Y'all are all welcome. We can have you all on the show and we'll just have an absolute free-for-all and sort this out on the show. So, I'm done.
Okay, where do we go from here? I'm sorry, Benton is just I can't get into it. I don't know what it is. I'm
But you
sorry.
live right there. I don't even live there. I just fish Cypress Lake every now and then, Black Bayou, drive through Benton, spend a little money every now and then up there,
I don't live in downtown Benton. I mean, don't get me wrong. I care about Benton, and I want Benton to progress. And it's the county seat of the parish. I mean, it should be running like a well-oiled machine, and it's not. But
Well,
I don't
look,
know. I just can't get into it.
again, and I've been harsh on James Friday, the mayor, but I did give him credit earlier in the show. And that was based on the last meeting that I went because I thought he handled that well. Because he also pointed out one more thing. He also pointed out
You like this Benton stuff. Maybe
well,
you should move to Benton.
the city council has kind of gotten boring, except Chris and Brian's little lovers quarrel they had. But he did,
I like that.
and he timed it well. The mayor did in the Benton Town meeting. He timed it well and brought up the fact that, Tiffany's against all this stuff, but she wanted to spend, it was somewhere around like $1,400 because she thinks that the entire transcript of the meetings should be published in the Journal of Record. And it's like $1,400, where normally I think he said, Redford or maybe Stephanie can correct me, normally it costs them $50 to $150, $200 to publish the minutes and the agenda and whatever ordinances they voted on or whatever. She wanted the whole transcribed portion of the meeting. Now, newsflash, Tiffany, anybody, any citizen, Benton resident or not, doesn't matter, they can be from New York City, can request the audio of that meeting and get it. And newsflash, Tiffany, if you want to transcribe it, do it yourself. There are free resources to do it. It takes a little bit of time. There are paid resources to do it, and it still takes a little bit of time. I know, I do this all the time. So anyway, I'm just saying this has gotten to the point of being absurd.
Well, I'm sorry that I am of no help to you on this. Sorry. That's all I can say.
You're like Miss Carr. You don't even know how you got dragged into this. You're associated with me. Miss Carr's associated with Tiffany. So y'all are the collateral damage of all this.
I just can't get that blue dress out of my head. It's burnt me up.
Hey, well, look, again, to Jasmine Carr, that was an excellent piece of AI right there. Hold on, I got to show this again, as a matter of fact, one last time, and then we'll get off the subject. And Jasmine, let me know in the comments if we have permission to use your AI generated art as our Facebook profile picture. Can we use that? Because absolutely we will. I mean, it's great.
Anyway, yeah,
All right.
cool.
Okay, so now on to the actual important part of the show.
So did we have a fight in Bossier City or did we not?
We had a little argument, a little disagreement, a lover's quarrel, you might say. Let me give you because I have all these time stamps queued up for all this. Let me just give you the quick rundown, which most of you know if y'all have read, Channel 3 and the regular news and all that. The Bossier City Council has voted to basically boot the Bossier Arts Council out of their Bossier City-owned building. And of course, there were impassioned pleas to do it otherwise. Now, there are a couple of things that I do want to show, because there was a veiled threat issued by, what's that guy's name? Nathan Hicks. He's a lawyer, apparently, and he made pretty much a veiled threat for potential litigation. And I thought Hammonds was going to lose it over that. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, so let me get this set on the correct speed here, and let me make sure I've got the volume turned up, because y'all are going to hear this. All right, so listen closely.
I would just say that the amount of time given could result, and almost would certainly result, in material damage to both the Bossier Arts Council and the city if we can't figure those things out. I mean, there's a significant amount of things in that building. It's been there for 45 years. There are things that I would be most certain that the council and the city would want to have some negotiation in, rather than us just taking them because we don't believe they're a fixture, which is not something we want to do either. But nor can we leave things that may be of a material value that we could use later for our own purposes.
All right, so he's talking about the stuff that's in the building there and in the offices. And then they specifically talk about, I guess there's a Bossier Arts Council sign, big sign or whatever. I honestly hadn't paid attention to it, that's up there. All right, so he leads off talking about the material stuff, and then we jump to his mention of the contract. Here we go.
I fully understand. I also understand there's no other office like that in the United States, strangely enough. However, we have not violated the contract. We have not violated the plaza contract as they currently exist in the manners that we have them.
All right,
we have done everything that we can to rectify this legislative auditor's violation. And again, it is my firm belief, given the time, we could rectify that. And the monies have already been given to us for the performance of that contract, which would lead us to a contractual issue that might involve, and I am not suggesting this is a course of action anyone would take. Let me be very clear about that. But a potential litigation on a contract performance. And I don't have an appetite for that, and neither does the city, I don't think. And we don't want that.
So hold on, are we you're already talking about a lawsuit here?
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir. No, sir.
Well, I mean, there is no more conversation if we're talking about a lawsuit.
I am not suggesting that is something that we want to do. Let me be.
All right, so let me stop right there. You caught that. That's like me saying, hey, Duke, I'm not saying I want to punch you in the mouth, but I'm probably going to punch you in the mouth.
Yeah, but city government, they always, especially Richard Ray and Jacobs, the first thing they want to do is if they even think somebody's thinking about a lawsuit, to say, oh, we can't talk.
Oh, well,
they go on lockdown.
Newsflash, I've corrected those yahoos for attorneys before. I'll correct them again. And Mr. Hammonds, because that was Hammonds making the comment. Newsflash, y'all might not can discuss it if you go into executive session, but he certainly can in the commentary all he wants, especially if he's the litigant. There's nothing restricting him legally from talking about it all he wants in his 3 minutes of comments, Mr. Hammonds. Sorry. So Hammonds, I got to say right here at this point, is borderline acting like Montgomery. I hate to say that because I really like Brian. But this is borderline ridiculous. All right, here we go. Now, granted, he's issuing a veiled threat. We can all read between the lines. Here we go.
Be clear about that. But there are a multitude of questions that have to be answered. That's what I'm saying. Even if we have more time, we need more time to figure out the answers to those questions in a way that satisfies the city and everyone else involved. Obviously, predominantly, if we want to keep the relationship with the city, we would want to satisfy the city supremely and our own interests secondarily. I'm just asking for time because there are material questions of interest here.
All right, so I'm going to skip that. I'm going to jump into Hammond's talking about the digital sign.
Mr. President, would you allow me a rebuttal question to Mr. Hicks?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
You're talking about the digital sign out front. This was way before your time with the Bossier Arts Council.
Yes, sir.
That sign was purchased on a grant. That was not donated to y'all. We went through a whole process with Miss Brown is here, where we made y'all shut the sign off. This was before this previous council. Y'all's director at that time stood right in front of us and told us that that sign was purchased with a grant because we were questioning why the money was spent that the city gave y'all for a digital sign and was put up without a permit from the city for that digital sign.
Yes, sir, Councilman Hammond. It's my understanding that that grant came from SWEPCO. and I may be wrong. Again, these are more material issues, but I'll cede my point unless you have further.
All right, so Hammond's had no more questions from him after he learned the grant was from SWEPCO. And again, I hate to pick on Brian. If Brian ran for mayor, I'd vote for Brian in a heartbeat.
Well, I mean, look, they're just throwing shots, but I think the point that the attorney here is making is you don't sit in there for what he say 30 years and get all of the assets and the things that you've got in there without a plan to get them out of there. And that's not as concerning to me as the fact that there's a lot of money that I think what somebody said they were given $80,000 and they've got $60,000 remaining of the city's money. I mean, that's an issue that needs to be addressed.
Well, but the city's already told them in previous meetings that they're not going to ask for that money back. So here's the rub I have, because we haven't published it yet, but I'm going to share it right now. I don't have it queued up, but I'll just go ahead and share it now. So I sent a public information request as Bossier Watch to the legislative auditor and to the city council, all right, requesting any emails, documentation, written or otherwise, notes, blah, 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 on the alluded to notification from the legislator's auditor's office that they were out of compliance, which is, we talked about when we did the last show that we did. I pointed out Richard Ray's little weasel wording in there and told everybody to listen to that. And it had been referenced in a previous city council meeting when they made it sound like the legislative auditor's office had proactively notified them that the Bossier Arts Council was out of compliance. It's not true. It's just simply not. Or the city's hiding records. One of the two. And they both can't be true at the same time. Now, the legislative auditor responded back to our request for documentation that they are exempted under statute from being required to send that information off from a public information request. That is correct. The city is not exempted from it. So the city city's response was, we have no records responsive to that request. In other words, the city didn't proactively get contacted by the legislative auditor's office. That's not the way this works. They were going through the records with the legislative auditor's office, which is perfectly fine. I have no problem with the city doing that. Like Chris has said, and Hammond's too, they're trying to be good stewards of the money. But let's call a spade, and let's tell the truth about how y'all got to this point. So here's the way I see it. I could be wrong. Call me out, Chris Smith. Call me out, Brian Hammonds, if I'm dead wrong. But the way I see it is you played it off to sound like the legislative auditor's office had reached out to y'all, when in reality, y'all were looking for ways to slash the budget and maybe needed that property for something else. Maybe you had the Bossier school board or somebody else that wanted to use those facilities. And that was the quick way to get these guys out because they're out of compliance for 3 years. Y'all gave them $80,000 and didn't care. $80,000.
Was you just talking, or did you know something about the school board? So you
it was mentioned in here in this meeting that the school board had already contacted the city about using the, I guess using the theater or whatever. I'm not that familiar with the Bossier Arts Council. And look, I don't think the city should be in the Bossier Arts Council in the arts business at all. I think the city should be rebuilding our roads and all those things that the city is supposed to do. I support the arts. I'm all for the arts. I'm for them being a private organization and raising money to support the arts and help support the arts in schools. I'm not really for the city doing this. But the situation is the city's been supporting the Bossier Arts Council apparently for 40 plus years. And I got to say, Hammonds changes his vote. Hammonds voted against this today or Tuesday at the meeting.
What, does that have anything to do with Chris and him getting crossed a little bit, or
No, it was before that.
Oh,
He got
okay.
crossed because now Miss Deborah introduced an ordinance, and let me see if I have this straight in my head. Y'all correct me in the comments. Miss Deborah introduced an ordinance. They were wanting to pull some of the money out of the Civic Center budget, I believe, to establish this around $50,000 a year city position for like an arts director. What the hell? This just doesn't fully pass the smell test here. It just doesn't. Yeah, the Arts Council's wrong for being out of compliance, but this doesn't completely pass the smell test. It just doesn't.
Well, the more government is involved in divvying out tax dollars for all of these things, I mean, they should be just focused on the basics. We need to get back to the safety and defense of the citizens. That comes first. And then I would say the water and sewer and roads. That should be your main priorities. All this divvying out of money to these other organizations, that's where things start getting sideways.
I agree 100%. I agree 100%. But and again, I've actually, I guess like Hammonds, changed my opinion a little bit on this, where the more I really pay attention to what people are saying in these meetings, not just the people that are coming up in support of the Arts Council, but what the city councilman and your city attorney or assistant city attorney is saying. Words matter. We've said that 10,000 times. Thank you, Richard Ray. And the more you listen to this, it's like, okay, why did y'all really yank the rug out from under them? But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just because they're not in compliance with the legislative auditor. All right. So one of the young ladies, let's see, Lynn Laird, I want to play this for just a minute. She wanted to clear up some of the stuff about the, or maybe she's the secretary, but she wanted to, of the Bossier Arts Council Board, she wanted to clear up some of the questions about the fundraising.
I am a long-term resident, I'm a lifetime resident of Bossier City, an artist here that was supported by the Art Council, and the current board secretary for 2025. I'd like to clarify a few items that have come up over discussion, even for our sake as much as for your sake, because the city has been a staunch supporter of the arts for decades. Y'all have been here and behind us. Over the past 3 years, in the time that I've been on the board, a little short of 3 years with Nate, the BAC has shown a net profit of $90,000 to $180,000 above what the city has granted us. So there was a mention maybe that that was only funding. Not as much as we've had in past years, but we have had considerable funding above that. As for fundraising efforts, the BAC has one of the top-rated fundraisers in Shreveport-Bossier City, along with the ones that you're well familiar with. Visit Shreveport-Bossier. Excellence in Hospitality has awarded us 22 and 23. Excellence in Hospitality, we got Outstanding Attraction. And in 2024, our fundraiser was the 2024 Outstanding Event.
All right. So just to kind of summarize that, there was an allusion to, or somebody alluded to in one of the prior meetings with all of this, that, basically the only fundraising y'all do is the money we give you and blah, 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 blah. Well, she's up there correcting the record, or at least clarifying the record. Let me put it that way. And I want to bring up, let's see, Robin Jones got up and spoke. She's the former director. I don't want to play all of her comments. They were passionate. I'm going to play Haygood's comments first, and then I'll play Miss Robin's comments because Hammonds actually calls her back up there to clarify her comments. So let's listen to Ryan Haygood, who is in the comments, obviously.
Haygood, 2136 Airline Drive. First of all, thank y'all. You're doing a great job. Compared to the last council, y'all are perfecto. This is a very hard vote for y'all, I get it, but I think you made a mistake. When you're planning for a budget, you plan in December. To kick somebody out in March runs their whole year, okay? And I think you have to inspect what you expect. You gave them a check for $80,000 without inspecting anything. That's on you. How many other NGOs are in the same spot? Are there 5, are there 10, are there 15? Why them and why now? So what I would ask you to do is just rethink your vote, slow it down, give them some time to reassess, and let's come back a different day. Thank you.
All right. He's got a point. Now, of course, on the flip side, if, even though Hammonds and Smith have already been in there for one term previous to the new council people, they did have a mandate to really straighten up and tighten up the finances. There's no doubt about that. I mean, the people spoke with their votes. Out with the old guard, except for Maggio, but he's a follow-along guy, and in with the new. And so they do have a mandate to do that. Again, I'm just questioning the real motive and what really transpired in all this. And again, I was a staunch Arts Council should go, whatever, get their stuff straight, be a private deal, raise private money or whatever. But I got to say, I'm leaning back over towards the middle or maybe even towards their side.
Well, word on the street is that, there's an attempt to try to create a new arts district, and that would make that down there subject to a different tax bracket, and that would encompass both at the East Bank and the boardwalk. And so I don't know, is it possible that there's more going on here? Yeah, very possible, but don't have the details to say for certain yet.
Yeah, and Miss Ruth, I see your comment. I would put it up on the screen, but it's like 4 paragraphs long, and that won't fit on the screen. So if you'd like for me to show some of that on the screen, just do it in smaller bites, and I'll be glad to show your comments as well. Again, and she's mentioning, she's defending Chris and Brian basically in her comments. I don't want to speak for her, so you can read her comments, and I get that. I'm kind of torn between this two, but something doesn't quite pass a smell test with this, and I'm pretty good at sniffing that kind of stuff out. Anyway, let me move on now because I want to get to the point where Hammonds asks, because I thought this was actually really good of Hammonds, all right? He asked Robin Jones, because she was pretty emotional. She is apparently the former BAC director, not the one that got him in the non-compliance trouble and all that, but apparently was the director for quite a while. And so he asked her to come back up and comment. So let's listen for a few minutes.
Ms. Jones, would you mind coming back up for a second? I will say this. I went back through and looked at everything that you did when you were the director of the Bossier Arts Council, and it was phenomenal. You did a job that, the fundraising, the money that y'all had on hand, everything. When you left, you can tell when you left. So feel good about yourself. You can tell when you left from where we are now. It is not that we don't like the arts, that we want to get rid of the arts. There's just sometimes that we are put in a hard place and we have to do what the law tells us to do. Maybe you can answer a few questions for me since you've been back, because how much money is left of the $80,000
Here you go, dude.
given y'all?
There is $66,000.
You said that y'all had, Artini has been pushed back. Artini is a fantastic fundraiser that y'all do. I've been going every year since y'all started that.
All right, so I'm going to stop it right there because they go, back and forth, and and Brian does a good job. Again, I was a little harsh on him earlier. I want to give him credit where it's due. He gave her that time and told her, "Hey, look, you're not up here doing general comments. I asked you up here, so you can talk as long as you want." And he did ask her some things that the current board has going in their favor, and let her have her say. And I got to say, I'm certainly can't speak for Hammonds, but I think this may have kind of swayed his change in vote a little bit. I don't know, because she was very sincere about it. And I thought this was really good of Brian to let her get up there and speak like that again. So let's move forward, because Joel Gerard made some comments and all that. Everybody's for the Arts Council, hoorah, hoorah, but we're fixing to kick y'all out anyway. All right. So then Chris Smith's comments. Listen to him. You'll love this one, Duke. Here's Chris Smith.
Tremendous amount of work has been done, and I don't want that to be taken away from the BAC and those that are passionate about that. I don't want you to feel like it's not seen or appreciated, because it is. I would say that the question came up during someone's comments today, and I've seen it on social media. Well, how did the city let it get this far? And I will say that sitting up here, you have three councilmen and a councilwoman who have 6 months of experience, and 3 other council members that have 4 years of experience. And that's a dramatic shift from councilmen that we replaced that sat up here for 30 years, 24 years, 18 years. And over the course of the last 6 to 7 months, this council has made it a priority to go through all of the city's operations and find inefficiencies and find ways to make things more streamlined and better. I mean, my goodness, we hired a CPA firm to do an audit of the city to tell us where we could streamline things. We've worked with the mayor's office and the administration on processes and procedures to see where we can make things better, where we needed to add things to protect us both legally and just financially. And so, and that is, I would say the first thing we did was back in October, we passed an ordinance that going forward, starting in 2026, any NGO that wants funding has to apply. They have to put in an application, and on part of that application is how did you spend prior year's money, how are you going to spend future year's money, and are you up to date with everything that, legally, accounting-wise, that you're supposed to. So we've kind of already fixed it, but then Councilman Cliff Smith has an ordinance that is going to be on a second reading today, specifically focused on this legislative auditor piece. There's also another nonprofit that's here that's in the same situation as the BAC. And so I think that one thing that we as a council are trying to do is be consistent. We don't want to pick winners and losers. We don't want to say that this organization gets better treatment than this organization. It's just fair across the board. And it's unfortunate that one person and board members who weren't paying attention let it get to this, and that is the most unfortunate part of all of it.
All right. So, look, I don't completely disagree with him there. I'm just questioning the way they did the process. I don't think they were completely transparent about it. Again, you go back and listen to Richard Ray at the last meeting. That's all you got to do. That we pointed out on this show. Let's take a listen to the vote on that real quick, and then we'll get to the fireworks. All right, here we go.
All right, well then we will take our vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
I oppose.
All right, Madam Clerk, will you do a roll call?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chris Smith.
Yay.
Mr. Creighton Cochran. Mr. Brian Hammonds.
Nay.
You heard that.
Mrs. Deborah Ross.
Nay.
Mr. Cliff Smith.
Yay.
Mr. Vince Maggio.
Yay.
Mr. Joel Gerard.
Yay.
Motion carries with 5 yeas.
So,
I-
and I'm just popping up some of the comments, so go ahead.
I don't understand, but you know, I don't know. Maybe we'll know. Maybe we'll reach out to Brian and ask him what was you thinking there,
changed?
bro?
Yeah, what changed his mind? All right, so here we go. Let's get to the fireworks because there was another motion for payments made to NGOs that are, I'm paraphrasing here, so you can go back and check their actual ordinance or listen to the meeting yourself on YouTube. But there was a motion for payments to NGOs basically that were out of compliance with the Legislative Auditor's Office. I would argue they should have put that ordinance in before they drummed all this up with the Bossier Arts Council. That's kind of putting the cart sideways to the horse, but they did. All right. So let's jump to the fireworks part. So this is got to listen to the ordinance, and it's just going to get into it. Now, I'm just going to kind of let this play, Duke. This goes on for several minutes. Tell me when you want to stop and do some commentary. Here we go, folks. Y'all listen up. Whoops. Let me get over to it. All right, here we go.
Amending the 2026 Civic Center fund budget and decrease fund balance to add 1 full-time position to the Civic Center. First reading.
You heard that right. Full-time Civic Center
Second.
person.
Motion by Councilwoman Ross, second by Councilman Gerard. Is there any public comment? Any comment by the council?
Yeah, I do, Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
It's my own fault for not reading this ordinance a little bit more than I did. It's my own fault. So I'm just a little bit confused that we've already paid $80,000 out. $80,000 is gone. But here we are, want to spend another $55,000 to go and hire our own director.
Oops.
Where I understand the situation that the Arts Council is in. I understand that. But to me, this is being more unfrugal with the taxpayers' money than giving it to the Arts Council and them not being in compliance.
You want the building to sit empty and not?
Did those words ever come out of my mouth? That the building is going to sit empty? I don't believe so.
Now, I want to pause it right there. You heard what Chris said. Words matter. You mean you want the building to sit empty? So don't make any bones about this. They've all done the dog and pony show about inviting the Arts Council. As soon as you get your stuff straight, come back to us. We'll be open to another cooperative endeavor agreement, blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, they've got something else planned for that building.
So we're going to hire did I hear the original ordinance correctly? We're going to hire a Civic Center employee, but
Yes.
it's actually going to be an employee to run that down there.
Yeah, kind of interesting way that they had the ordinance published, don't you think? Kind of like hiding it in the wording.
There's a whole lot of worse things have been done before, but yeah, no, I did catch that. Catch that.
And Haygood had the comment. I'll put it back up on the screen. There's some strange body language happening. Yeah. Notice when Hammond started down that path, Joel did a weird turn over to him to look at him like, have you lost your mind? I mean, maybe that's not what Joel's thinking. Maybe he was looking at a fly on the wall, but that's just the way it looked. And he's my city councilman that, by the way, has not reached out to me since becoming a city councilman and only reached out one time before being elected, but that's beside the point.
Well, I didn't notice that, but I wonder why he's taking such an interest in the Arts Council stuff.
All right, here we go.
Ever came out of I'm speaking, Mr. President. I'm not here to argue with you, but it is my right to sit here and speak.
Go ahead.
I just don't understand. We're going to tell people that they have to be out in 7 days, or after this ordinance goes into effect, probably another 21 days. That Going back now, I wish I would have given them a little bit more time in order to get stuff together, because I had no idea this ordinance was coming.
Good one, Cassie.
None whatsoever.
Yeah.
That this was coming for us to go out and hire a director. Is this director going to work with the current board that is there? Can anybody answer that for me?
That's the plan. That's the, I'm sorry, President. Can I answer you?
Go ahead, Councilwoman Ross.
Okay. I had spoke with Chris, and I didn't want to see the Bossier Arts just shut down and get into the building. So I brought to his attention is the city is on the building, paying for the utilities, doing everything that needs to be done for the building. Why can't the city of Bossier oversee the building and keep the people that's there, but have the city of Bossier responsible for it, so that we would fall into this legislative oddity? You wouldn't have to worry about that. It'd be city-owned, city-ran, and those employees would be for the city of Bossier. That was my recommendation, to try to keep Bossier Arts alive, because I did not want to see the building empty down there. You're trying to build an area up, and if they got to move out in March the 30th, you're going to have a building down there empty. And what good is an empty building in a business where you're trying to keep it alive?
Miss Deborah, love you and appreciate what she's trying to do right there, but let's run the math. $55,000 for an employee plus whatever benefits and insurance. So let's just say that's going to cost, I don't know, $65,000, $75,000 total to the city by the time everything's said and done. Well, what did they quote the value of that building was to the Arts Council? A couple of $1,000s a month, $3,000 a month, whatever. Let's say it's $3,000 a month in potential rent for the city of that building. That's $36,000 a year. It doesn't make sense for them to kick them out, and then it doesn't make financial sense for them to kick them out and then turn around and do this. They may as well have left them in the building, even including utilities. Make this make sense. They could have just voted, give them not, and look, the Arts Council should have requested maybe 90 days or whatever to get this sorted out instead of 2 weeks. I don't think they'd have gave them 90 days, except now that Hammonds has changed his mind. But, you know, they should have requested 90 days. Let us get this sorted out with the Arts Council. The city should have had their appointee on the board, which in this meeting, the Arts Council mentioned, hey, you guys have vacant seats on the board that basically nobody's filled. Nobody's come and sat in from the city. The city could have literally been on the board watching this, including Chris Smith and Brian Hammonds, because they've already been in there for 4 years, over 4 years. So it's as much on them, I hate to say it, as it is, maybe not quite as much, but there is plenty of blame to go around, including directly to Chris Smith and Brian Hammonds. Am I right?
I don't know. I don't know what to make. But well, here's the thing. I mean, Hammonds has been trying to. I think he's made 2 attempts to try to get this thing with the Bossier Arts Council down there wrapped up, and now the shoe be's on the other foot. I can't make sense of this. I mean,
this is the dumbest thing they've done. If they're starting out like this, it's not even 6 months. Well, I guess 8 months or whatever it is into their new term. Come on, boys.
I think I'm right that Brian wanted to do this 2 times before with the previous councils, and now when finally you get up to the dance and then you change your tune, I don't understand.
It's confusing.
Here.
Yeah, it's confusing to me too. All right, so here we go, because the fireworks ain't over yet. This is just they're just lit the fuse.
Councilman Brian, that was the rationale for having to get a city employee to oversee it. Maybe that would stop some of the issues that they was having with the finance. And if they already have $66,000 in there, and the city of Bossier add more money to that for an employee, I'm thinking that would really help Bossier Arts to be able to stay alive for some of them being there. The city can't take over a nonprofit organization.
Yeah, that's not the way this works.
So,
Okay.
I've not taken
Here we go.
time.
Councilman Hammonds, you gave it to Councilwoman Ross, so I will speak, and if you want to speak
Go right
after,
ahead. I'll speak when you get
Councilman
done.
Hammonds, you do not have the floor.
I understand that.
Councilman Hammonds, You do not have the floor.
Then speak.
So, I take issue with you not knowing this ordinance came out because an agenda was published on Friday. That was 4 days ago, 5 days ago. So, you should never come into this room unprepared to take a vote. Number two, the Arts Council has their CEA officially terminated as of 4 or 5 votes ago. If we don't have anybody in that building, the building will shut down. And we all know because we have very important matters that we have to do on a day-and-day basis, providing public safety, roads, that this will quickly fall onto our back burner and we'll forget about it. So it was important when Councilwoman Ross brought this to me that we did this immediately so we could have as little interruption of arts services in the facility as possible. I spoke with the administration, the Mayor Chandler, Chief Administrative Officer Shane Cheatham. They thought it was a great idea. They endorsed the idea from Councilwoman Ross. They even said that there are people in the building providing certain services that if they wanted to stay to provide their services, they could under the direction of this employee. The Bossier Arts Council is its own private entity, nonprofit, so they won't report to this person. That's absurd to even ask that question. But they will run the building, and if the Arts Council and their partners that they provide programming through the Arts Council, if they want to partner with the director that the city has hired, then they can certainly do that to keep programming in place.
In the words of the immortal Burt Gummer from Tremors that I haven't played in a long time on this show, you government people take something so simple and really complicate it. I mean, come on.
And so you have 2 options. We can wait. The Arts Council just told us that they have 2023's paperwork turned in. It's going to take 2 to 3 months for their CPA to do that audit. Then he's going to pick up 2024. Then he's going to pick up 2025. By my calculation, that's end of the year going into next year. Best case scenario. So we can either let the building sit vacant
Listen up.
and not have any arts programming, or we can be proactive and have arts programming. Now, if you want to give the Arts Council more time, you can propose an ordinance and put it on the next agenda.
Thank you.
Or, and we'll get to the more fireworks here in a minute, or y'all could have just given them more time anyway and put one of the city councilmen on the board seat that's sitting there waiting for you. Hello. All right, let's wrap this up.
But this is a proactive approach to making sure that we keep our bargain when we say we're not going to let arts programming die. This is that. So if you don't want to vote for this, by all means, vote no. But do not ever come in here and say that you aren't prepared to cast a vote, because that is irresponsible.
And let me go back to clarify, Mr. President, what I said. I said it is my fault for not reading further into this ordinance, is what I said. I'm very prepared, so don't put words in my mouth. Okay? We're all elected here just like everybody else sitting at this table. So don't put words in my mouth. I have every right to sit up here and speak just like everybody else.
You do.
And I can sit up here and speak for the next 6 hours if I want to.
Filibuster, baby.
I have that right.
Councilman Hammonds.
So what I am saying is-
Councilman Hammonds, point of order.
Well, you're a
Councilman
when I'm
Hammonds.
speaking.
Councilman Hammonds, you are not the council chair. You will speak on the agenda item, or you can quit speaking.
I will speak on the agenda item. First of all, you cannot take city funds and go collaborate them with a 501c3 nonprofit. That's the first problem here. when Councilwoman Ross said that we will take the 55,000 from the city and put it in with the 66,000.
All right, I'm going to stop it right there because it keeps going in circles. Then Jacobs offers his omniscient advice, blah, 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 blah. So y'all can go watch the rest of the meeting because we'd be here for another 15 or 20 minutes, listen to the lovers quarrel.
Well, I mean, look, this is what we talk about. You want open debate, you want out in the public, and you want your elected officials to debate issues publicly for everybody to see. Well,
Yeah.
This is what that would look like because those two guys are friends and they find themselves on the opposing sides on this issue. And, you get down into the weeds on some of these things, and that's how an argument that's how it can go.
I'm not debating that. I agree with you 100% on that, and I would rather see them, whether it was those two or Cliff Smith or Joel or Creighton or, well, we don't count Vince, but any of them, Miss Deborah, whatever, have a disagreement. I'm all good with that. Again, I agree with Haygood. There's more to this story, and Haygood and I have not talked except in the commentary here on this show, but I agree with him.
Yeah,
Danielle Marriott says, I was just getting into it, Rex.
the chair's moving here, and I don't know. I think there's some piece missing here.
Hammond's pushed back in his chair and then leaned forward. That's watching the body language there. So, all right. So not only, let's just wrap this up with this. So we've shown two things of drama today. One, I would consider really stupid, asinine drama from Benton, and particularly one alder person, that being Tiffany Manning. Not so much Miss Carr. Again, she's just kind of the collateral damage and the political humor and all that. But it just goes to show that even as supportive of the current city councilman, all of them except for Vince, as you and I have been, here we go again. So apparently we're going to have more to talk about every week, even on Thursday nights.
Well, does that mean we got to move the show back to Tuesday?
I don't know.
or is that still to be determined?
I don't know. All right, so let's move on. So that's it again, folks. If y'all want to watch the rest of it, go to the Bossier City's YouTube channel. You can watch the whole thing there. I was queued up to, let me let everybody know, that was at about the 60-minute mark, 50 to 60-minute mark when all that was happening, if you go to that video. So we've also got the Bossier Parish Police Jury, and they were discussing the data center. I didn't go to that meeting. We've got it queued up with the video, and you've done a great job of pulling out some timestamps here for us to look at and listen to. So give everybody kind of the heads up on the police jury meeting and what this was about. Did your opinion change of the data center, or was it improved? What's the deal?
Okay. Well, if you didn't have the time to go, and we're going to get some of the high points here. And I think this meeting, I mean, you went to the one in Caddo Parish,
Right.
And I would say this meeting was really informative. I thought I was on top of everything, but I actually learned a few more things in this meeting that I didn't even know beforehand. And, but before we hit the data centers, I want to play one part, and you've got it queued up there, and I'm going to jump us ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and hit play. Interesting thing, they had a change order on the library, the admin building for the library, and I was sitting there waiting on the data center thing, and this made me think. And Sad Al's going to jump out of his chair a little bit. Listen to this.
All right.
Motion passes.
Item 21, other business, change order number 3, project number 2025-117. Consider approval of change order number 3, project number 2025-117, Bossier Parish Libraries Administration Building renovations, and authorize the execution of documents. Police Street District 9.
This change order is for additional electrical components and outlets that need to be dedicated for the server room that were thought to be there, but they were not. So it's 3,152.82 and 10 additional days for those to run in this renovation. This is not an uncommon innovation project.
It's not. I have a motion by Ms. Glorioso and a second by Mr. Cochran. Any discussion by the jurors or the audience? None seen, please vote.
So
Translate.
here's my question. Are they voting as police jurors or are they voting as the library board?
Well, that is a good question.
I was just sitting there thinking, and I was like, well, I know they're convened as the police jury, but they're also all the library board. So didn't the library board formally do these kinds of things?
Well, they've kind of merged them together. Maybe it's like a transgender thing. I wonder what their pronouns are. What do they consider their pronouns as the police jury / library board? Is it they, them, those, us? What is it?
Well, that made me have another question. They're approving a change order for an admin building. Well, if they're the admin, why do they need another building? They're sitting in one right now. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
I don't know. I mean, it caught me off guard. So fast forward to the data centers, right? And look,
yeah, now you've got me thinking about the daggum library board again, but let's get to data center.
I'm sorry. I know that was a brain teaser, but that one has been eating at me ever since I left that meeting. It's just been in my head. I kept thinking, where's Jeff Sadow when you need him?
Yeah.
But so let's jump ahead. And William Bradford, I mean, look, you commented on how eloquent of a speaker he is. He made some comments to start this thing off and to get it kicked off and going. And if y'all know some people that are interested in learning a thing or two about the data centers, this is probably going to be the one, because I think this is going to fill in some questions or blank spots that you may have. But let's listen to William Bradford real quick.
William Bradford, 333 Texas Street, Suite 700, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71101. I am one of the representatives of Stack Infrastructure, and we do have some technical experts here as well. First off, I wanted to say thank you all for the opportunity to speak today and present what we expect to be one of the most transformative projects in Northwest.
Oh, hold on. Sorry, Duke.
That's okay.
West Louisiana. We didn't get here by accident. The state, the federal government have all made overtures at the impact and the evolution of data centers across our country and the importance of really being on the front edge of this type of development. And the state has been very responsible. The local government has been very responsible, the parish government as well, and very responsive to the concept of bringing a data center or several data centers to Northwest Louisiana. When we think about data centers, we're not talking about something as simple as your cell phone. It's more than just that. It's telehealth. It's how we do business. It's air travel. All of the interactions you have with online services flow through data centers. And so as a country, we need to take charge of how this narrative is told. And so from that evolution, we began to develop the framework for this project. And we have been fortunate enough to land a major partner with Stack Infrastructure as well as Amazon. Amazon.
Okay, I want to stop. He rambled a little bit. He brings with him two guys that are talking, one talking about the project and then one talking about, the utilities involved in this thing. And ultimately this thing gets into some details that I've not heard before. And it was based off of questions and things that people had posed. And to give you one thing, and as an example, as a requirement, so everybody, like when you build houses or build a business or whatever, how they're putting all these retention ponds to collect water and stuff, right?
Right.
Well, as I appreciate it, they're only mandated to have it to you hear the 25-year, the 50-year, the 100-year flood and things like that. Well, as I appreciate it, they only have to build it to say the 25-year. But in this case, they're way exceeding what they have to do. And on this project, they're building a detention pond that will meet the requirements of a 100-year flood.
Okay.
So And they go on and talking about, for instance, like on the perimeter, on the boundaries of the property lines, whereas they don't have to be, but, no more than say 20 foot under existing rules, they're almost like 200 foot. So in all aspects, I mean, they, just what they were saying for the people that would listen, they were exceeding, everything that they are required to do.
Wait a minute. Wait a
Uh,
minute. Are you going to start selling Flex Seal too?
maybe so, maybe
Okay.
so. I
Okay.
don't know.
Just wanted the heads up. All right.
All right, so let's jump ahead, and I found the wastewater debate or dialogue to be the most informative on all of this, and we'll just let the first guy give for Stack. He's the water guy. Let's let him say his piece. Here we go.
So water service will be provided by a combination of Bossier City and the city of Benton. Wastewater splits between domestic wastewater, typical of the office type use of these buildings that support the employment. And then,
If you don't mind, pull that microphone up.
oh,
a
yeah,
little
yeah,
bit.
I'm
There
sorry.
you go.
You want me to start over, or are you
No,
guys?
no, no,
okay?
I think we're good. Okay.
All right. So, so I lead water and wastewater infrastructure, and the site will use water for cooling and domestic purposes, typical office use. So that office use is to support the employment at the site, and then the cooling water use is for evaporative cooling. From the evaporative cooling system, there is a discharge of non-contact cooling water. It is it requires very little treatment, very little chemical addition, and will be treated and discharged. We're working with jurisdictions, including the parish, and regulatory authorities, including DEQ, to determine, the level of treatment required to meet all water quality standards, depending on where that ends up being discharged, whether that be at a municipal facility or to the river. The domestic wastewater is intended to be sent to the city of Benton for treatment and discharge through their system. Happy to answer more questions regarding the water, wastewater, and available.
Karen, can you be a little clearer about the difference between domestic water and the cooling water, just so that everybody will understand that isn't technically savvy about these things?
Yeah, so domestic water is our typical home office type use. So sinks, toilets, all of that, that is what is being sent to the city of Benton for a traditional treatment. Non-contact cooling water is taking the water that's not evaporated through the cooling system and treating it to any requirement, any standards dependent on that discharge point to meet the water quality standards necessary. So that cooling water is barely touched. Essentially, it's chlorinated to eliminate biological growth through the cooling system. And so that chlorine would have to be removed along with any other pH adjustment or anything like that would be a requirement for discharge.
So I'm going to stop right there. Rex, tell me something. In our water systems that come to each and every one of our houses, what do they put in it, as antibacterial and, to ensure that we don't get brain-eating amoebas and things like that? What do they put in it?
Chlorine.
That's what he just said.
Oh, but
That's
we're
what he
going to
just-
nanofiltration. Don't forget, Duke. But anyway,
That's what he just said.
yeah,
So
it's been used for a long time.
His terminology, he only described two waters, and you'll see here in just a minute, this is long, but it's detailed, but there's actually, let me say it this way, there's three different fluids. So you've got wastewater from just regular, like you have at your house where you go to the bathroom or you take a shower and
Right.
it goes down the toilet or the shower drain, and goes into the sewer system, and that's going to, the town of Benton. Then you've got the water that they use in the cooling tower, and this is the water that they would be getting from Bossier City, and they may add, it's already going to have chlorine coming from Bossier City, but they may add more chlorine to it or treat it and maintain it so that it doesn't develop algae and things like that within that cooling system. But here's the rub. You'll hear them say here in just a minute that of that water that they run through there, 2/3 of that water evaporates into the air. Just the water does. But the deal is the chlorine and that stuff remains within
Right.
the water in the system.
Mhm.
So they have to keep adding more water in there and kind of
Right.
staying on top of it.
Yeah, and dilute it back down. Yeah.
Right. But then you've also got the retention ponds from the rain runoff, and you had some people come up in the audience because we may not. I have their comments marked, but we may not show them that they were concerned about whether or not they were gonna test the water in the retention ponds from rainwater. I mean, you're the tech guy. If you've got a computer that you're putting into a building and you're building a building to just house that computer from getting the elements on it and control the environment, is there a runoff that we should be concerned with, beyond the same runoff that runs off your house?
It would be no different, and I have not listened to this presentation yet. I did, like you said, listen to the one in Blanchard, but it would be no different than building any other metal building that there's a cajillion of them around Bossier Parish and the runoff from that. There's no magical, um, um, harsh materials or possible pollutants that are going to be exposed to that water. They're not putting the water directly on the server components. They're
That's
not
right.
they're not running it through the PCB board, like, diffusing it through the PCB board and then extracting that water out where it would come in contact with potential contaminants or carcinogens or anything like that. That's not what they're doing.
Well, that is gotten into a whole lot more detail here in just a little bit, because as it would turn out, we're actually talking about the water or the fluid. Let me say it this way. The fluid to which you're speaking of that does come in contact with the computer system,
Right.
it's a fluid that's never released out in the public. Now, I don't know if the commenters that came up and they went down a litany of chemicals and
Well,
health effects that you could have from those
let,
chemicals.
let me pause you right there because I just had the thought. If you take the typical oil change place that we've got how many dozens of? I mean, the one on Benton Road that the city bought out or whatever they did with it. We've got all these oil change places, gas stations that potentially have more potential to have contamination than this building is going to have. Does that make sense? And I probably didn't say that right because it's now 8:43 or
No, it
whatever.
100%. It's ridiculous.
Let's
And
not even get into the oil field equipment.
I say it a different way in something that here in just a minute that you're going to see. And if people, I mean, this is ridiculously safe compared to a lot of other things. But
Right. Yeah, people are, and look, it's okay for people to question this. I'm not discounting anybody that's questioning it, and I'm not just gung ho because it's tech. Look, I can say when we built a boat factory in Oklahoma, we had to deal with a lot of this because acetone is like holy water in a boat factory, and so we had an acetone recovery system that would evaporate the used acetone so that we could reuse it because acetone's pretty expensive. But we also had to have Safety Clean come out and pick up our waste acetone that we couldn't recover and our waste from the fiberglass and the resin and all those sorts of things. And waste water, any water that, like he said here, wasn't used normally in the bathrooms and the sinks and that sort of thing. So I'm quite aware of this. And we had a huge, 100,000 square foot building or whatever it was, metal building, a factory to build boats in. So I can appreciate what they're saying here. And the problem is, I think some people are not just asking legitimate questions. They're asking those questions without actually thinking them through thoroughly.
well, we'll cover that here in just a second. We'll go a little bit deeper into this and we'll follow back up on this. But as fate would have it, the stack got up, made their speeches or whatever, and then they turned the floor over. Let me just start right here out of the gate. I'm going to compliment the police jury. I think the police jury conducted one of the best meetings that I've ever seen the police jury conduct. They went out of their way to enable the public to speak. They went out of their way to they didn't enforce no time rules. They even let people go back up, speak once, and go back additional times and speak. And
Impressive.
And in the end, they said, "Is there anybody else that wants to say anything? Is there anyone left?"
This is amazing. This is topsy-turvy Thursday. We have been
crazy.
slamming, or at least I have, Smith and Hammonds, yet we're praising the Bossier Parish Police Jury. What the hell?
Well, I don't want to get too terribly far. I mean, there's
All
always criticism, but compliments are deserved in the way that this meeting went, because they were talking. But there's some observations, and it's not so much a criticism of these folks, this police jury, because I think this my criticism is more of the system and government in general regarding this issue, and the non-disclosure agreements,
right,
and tax abatement and all of that. But he turned the floor over to anyone wanting to speak. Well, it was a little bit of a hesitation. Nobody really jumped up and wanted to speak. Well, guess what? I'm not bashful, so I jumped out of my seat and I went up to say my piece.
Imagine that.
So while y'all are watching me, I have to tolerate watching myself. So here we go.
Okay.
What's going on? There you go.
At least you didn't have on a blue dress.
There you go.
Duke Lowry, 1835 Glen Cove Drive, Benton, Louisiana. Unlike maybe a lot of people, I'm here in favor of the data center and this project. I've took.
Could you say that again, sir?
I said I'm in favor. I took the liberty of doing a little bit of the studying when I started hearing some of the allegations regarding, that our electric bills have already went up as a result of this, and poured through the Public Service Commission documents, and I couldn't find anything to sustain that. In regards to water, that we're not going to be able to supply the water, as many of you probably know, and I'm sure somebody from Bossier City can speak a little bit more eloquently on that. I've really paid attention to the water situation from Bossier City, and I have no reservations about the city of Bossier being able to provide enough water, and or that resulting in increased costs. I think these folks have made it plainly clear that they're going to cover all the costs, from a utilities standpoint. And as it applies to discharge of water, to the environment, not that this really matters. A former hazmat technician in a business I had was doing solids control in the oil field. I worked in the Dakotas processing waste, worked in Ohio, Pennsylvania, South Texas, Louisiana, doing all that. And to me, what these folks are talking about as far as their discharge is not a big problem. I don't see it. I think they're going to do a wonderful job and take care of that.
Now here we
I
go.
do have a couple of questions. Is this body still in negotiations regarding this development?
Oh, good question, Mr. Lowry. Wait, do I hear crickets?
Are we still negotiating on
You
tax
noticed I
abatements?
looked
Are we still
right.
negotiating on anything?
Hello? Is there anybody in there? Paging Patrick Jackson.
Are we negotiating?
Is it a done deal? Have we approved it?
There's nothing left to negotiate. I don't understand the question, dude.
Okay, so NDAs don't apply anymore? Or do we have NDAs? Does this body have NDAs?
The body is free to tell you anything you need to know.
Okay, well, I've sent several public information requests, and I haven't gotten what I thought was appropriate to describe exactly what this body has agreed to in regards to taxes. I used AI, ironically, before I came in here to see that, Bossier Parish, I think is correct, is the third highest property taxes in the state of Louisiana. And so I think it's a fair question if this body is negotiating on behalf of the citizens of Bossier, what exactly is the agreement? I can't make an opinion as to whether I think it was a good deal or whether it was not, and I wasn't critical of this body in negotiating, but now that the negotiation is over, I just would like to know what the deal is.
Yeah, Duke, you probably want to request a copy of the pilot.
Of the pilot.
The pilot.
Well, in Caddo Parish, they openly distributed that, and I have a copy of Caddo's, but I don't know Bossier.
It's the same.
Okay, so it is the exact same as Bossier.
The same.
Okay. As you probably.
I'm going to stop right there and cover why. You know why? Do you know why I was asking about the negotiations, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I've got a pretty good grasp on it, but maybe let everybody else know why.
Well, the reason that I was focusing and I was making them answer the question regarding negotiations, because this NDA and the ability for this process to go the way that it went results from House Bill 461 of 2024 by Stephen Jackson. And in that, it says that when the negotiations are over with, that the things would be made public. And I have the House bill in the cut folder, and I think I can pretty much get down to the point to where it doesn't matter, but it says in there once the negotiation's over. So the first thing I was doing was getting them to confirm that there were no more negotiations, because like I said, we have submitted public information requests for any contracts or agreements of the police jury or police jurors. An NDA is a contract, and to which, basically we got the response that they didn't have anything. Well, how can you say that when you said that you can't talk about things because of NDAs, and you just acknowledged to me that the NDAs don't apply anymore? Okay, well, now I want a copy of them. I just want to read them. I want to see the substance of your NDAs. What were you prevented from talking about? What were your limitations? That's what I want to see. But oh, by the way, here's the other part of this. Number 461 says that, whenever and I'll read the pertinent part. Each determination by the chief executive officer shall include reasons for the determination of keeping, something confidential or an NDA. The chief executive officer shall not enter into an agreement without an affirmative vote of the local governing authority consistent with the opening meeting law. The local government shall publish on its website and in its official journal a notice containing general information regarding each negotiation, to which records are confidential pursuant to this section no later than 5 days after the determination of confidentiality. Such notice shall include the date of the chief executive officer's determination. Records of expenses of the local government pertaining to the negotiation shall be public and subject to review, except that the chief executive officer may redact information that he determines would identify or lead to the identification of the person with whom the local government is negotiating, and such information shall be confidential until negotiations are completed. However, immediately on the conclusion of the negotiation, all such records shall be subject to the provision of this chapter. So there's two problems here. The one, I've sent a request. The negotiations have been over, and I've not been given the information. The second thing is according to this, the fact that they were going to be negotiating and keeping it privately should have been a matter of record at some point within the police jury meetings, and there should have been a vote on on it. Well, later on in this video, and Patrick says that, and I don't think it was just Patrick, it may have been the police jury president, Tom Salzer, at the time. They said, well, we've had 2 previous meetings on this subject and nobody was here. This is the 3rd and now everybody's here. Well, how would people know to be if they had a concern about data centers rather than an industrial park? Well, that's why they weren't there, because they didn't know.
Yeah, the
But
language was obfuscated in the agenda and all of that.
well, I'm not saying the police jury didn't do it. What I'm just saying what the law here says that they were supposed to do. But my point is that so they confirmed to me that there was a negotiation. That's one thing. And 2, they confirmed to me that the negotiation was over. So I went back through the minutes of the meetings trying to find where they had published or voted according to the rules, where they were negotiating and it was going to be confidential. I haven't seen that. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. Haven't seen that. So, and then of course we sent our request for the NDAs.
Yeah.
That was why I was making the points that I was making.
I got you. Hey, it was excellent points, and you were very, very eloquent in making those points, and you set it up well, because, you patted them on the back and patted them on the back, and they were laid back and kicked back and just expecting you to cheerlead for them, and then you hit them with the real question. That was excellent.
Yeah, so my problem was nothing to do really with the data center. It's on the process. And my suspicion, in which I think my suspicion is correct, and this is what should scare every one of you watching this, and it should scare everybody, every person who pays taxes or a vote. This is what should scare you about government. Honestly, I don't think they know what the deal was. I don't think they know. All they could say was it's the pilot. I already knew that was probably what it was, and this raises the question. This raises the question for all of you: is it appropriate for your local government to defer their responsibility on tax abatements, on making deals with industries or entities coming into your hometown? Because I don't think they knew.
Yeah, and that's troubling in and of itself. You definitely may be onto something there. I mean, so where did y'all end up? I mean, are they going to send us a copy of the ITEP? I mean, he said, clearly, Patrick Jackson said that, the attorney that actually runs the meeting, not the president of the police jury, he clearly said that it was the same ITEP agreement that Caddo has, but still, we would like to have Bossier's, I guess. Have we I hadn't followed up with it. Have we requested that yet?
Well, see, that's the thing. The pilot is something that was passed, by the legislature, for these economic development type things. And so basically the deal, it basically, it's kind of like the port. They have autonomy to cut and make these deals, and it cuts out the local governments per se. And that's what you have right here. The North Louisiana Economic whatever organization, foundation, or whatever made this deal.
Whatever acronym.
And it's called the pilot, and that's what it's equal across the board. In which I know that, but the point I'm getting at is what are the numbers? And I don't know. Did this police jury get a report on what the numbers were? And how does that look?
Well, yeah, and look, there's a lot of debate about, the big deal with the Blanchard one, I'll assume the same with the Bossier one is, well, they're going to be paying a 1% sales tax on all the equipment, materials, purchases, and all that. And I'm sure that's going to be quite a bit of money, and it'll be a big boost. It certainly will. But then you got to think about the value of all of those servers and the equipment that are in those buildings, plus the buildings themselves, plus the land. Again, it goes back to our conversation with Bobby Evanston many times, where they, what some people may not realize is the ad valorem tax. Let me paint an easy picture. When they calculate the tax liability for, let's use Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever big box store, it's not just the building, it's not just the land. They tax, what the ad valorem tax is everything in the building. I mean, down to the shelves and the telephones on the wall and the equipment and the inventory. And that's why you hear the stories of car dealerships many times will send their cars over to Texas so that the inventory isn't, counted for the ad valorem tax. And I'm not saying the car dealerships are doing anything illegal. It's perfectly legal for them to do that. But think about the lost tax revenue. And this is crazy that as a conservative, I'm sitting there having to talk about lost tax revenue, but it is what it is. Think about the lost tax revenue from the ad valorem tax for, however many years it is, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, whatever it is, that the city is not doing. And like you pointed out before, Duke, you as a small business owner, Acadiana Mortgage, your trucking company, when you had that going, you didn't get that same break.
No, I haven't I've gotten no break.
Okay.
Zero, nada. Paying out the nose. And
so that whole picking the winners and losers comment that Chris made, and again, that's switch back over to city council for just a second, but that whole comment that he made, I'm not saying he was being disingenuous about it, but they absolutely do pick the winners and losers when they do these deals.
Yeah. So Steve Stewart, I'm going to get back to that water issue because that caught my attention too. And there's.
Well, let me chime in a little bit, which I did about the Blanchard deal. So, it may not be the same, Duke, you can correct me because maybe they had a different pitch here with the Flex Seal going on in Bradford. But they estimate that they're only going to use about 57 million gallons per year. Well, run that math. Per year.
Yeah.
Run that math. That's not 1 million gallons a day. There's 365 days in a year. Run the math. And so the challenge is that during certain portions of the year, they have to be able to supply whatever that demand is going to be. But the rest of the year, they're not using as much water in these particular data centers. I'm not saying that's the way in every data center, but I know on that fact sheet, that's what they pitched out there.
Yeah, it's not helpful when, other media sources like Love Shreveport Bossier is putting out, posts saying maybe they got that from a reliable source that they should put out there, but that Bossier City is going to supply up to 13.5 million gallons of water per day to the Amazon data center. And these guys, no, they're not, that's not happening. That's not realistic.
Yeah, I've got that up on the screen. So it's not like they're going to be pulling a continuous 13.5 million gallons a day. That data center is basically going to be the same size, I think, or close to the same size as the one on Caddo. And they're talking about 1.5 to 5 million gallons per day. And you think, and I thought, that's a lot of water, except they said that, their average numbers, I'm sure it may vary a little bit, is going to be about what they calculate is about 57 million gallons a year, mostly during the hottest months. All right. And I think Bossier could handle that no problem. According to city council and what we've looked into with the ability of the city to supply water already.
They technically will use water 13% of the year because for the majority of the year, the other 87% of the year, they're using the outside air from here to cool. Granted, those numbers are going to fluctuate with the temperatures and things changing from year to year. I mean, I would think the numbers might change a little bit, but their estimates are that they would only be using water 13% of the year. And that estimate that they say would be 57 million gallons per year. So is it possible that in one shot they may have to have 13.5 million gallons a day? I'd find that hard to believe.
Well,
But
in the Blanchard meeting, they also said that they will have water storage on site just in case something happens to the water supply. They're able to keep the data center going for X period of time. They didn't specify exactly what that was, but they have to be able to keep that cooling water going. So they're going to have some storage on demand at the
yeah, well,
facilities,
there
I'm
you
sure.
go. And having a water tower builds water pressure into the water system,
Right.
which granted, there's no residential area to speak of really out there that would need it. But they also said that, their rate of consumption would be, it would be the equivalent of 526 households in the parish.
Right. That's
That,
another subdivision.
yeah, and that number was, they equated to 0.9% of the households in the parish is what it would equate to.
All right. So you have your can of Flex Seal. You're ready to pitch the Flex Seal out there, right?
Yeah. So let's go back to the video, because there was some really, really good stuff. And I'm actually, I am going to jump ahead to a comment. We were just talking about the pilot a while ago, and there was one gentleman that had a really great comment that I thought, I don't know his name, but he lives off of Old Plaindale Highway, and he kind of summed up a little bit this, and I'm going to jump ahead to his, and then we'll go back.
Okay.
So listen up to this cat.
And I don't understand when you talked about a pilot organization or a pilot.
Payment in lieu of tax. It's
Okay.
a contract.
I don't know why that's not up there. And Patrick, I don't mean any disrespect, but I mean, the people in this parish, it's like we were talking earlier, people in this country have a really big distrust of government right now. We have a distrust of large corporations who come in and say they're going to do the right thing, and they don't. Louisiana is rife with just one failure after another. There's a reason they call it Cancer Alley in South Louisiana. We don't need this to be Cancer Bayou. That needs to be up there. That needs to be told. How are we supposedly benefiting from any of this? A lot of those things that can be in open meetings, you probably wouldn't have half the people in here had this body kind of let us know. I know you did the things that were all you had to do legally, but I don't get on the Book of Face. I don't do the X Trap, Snapchat, Twitter thing, but a lot of people do. And there's a lot of media out there that you can use to get the knowledge out to people.
Hello.
A lot of this could have been avoided. But those questions I'd like to ask as well as the ones that have already been answered.
All right, thank you.
So, look, I like what he said.
Yeah.
I mean, people don't trust their government. They don't trust.
And here's the paradox. And I've said this over and over ad nauseum, we are living in the very beginnings of the information age. It's not about the phone. I mean, look, I use an Apple iPhone. A lot of people use an Android, whatever. It's not about the phone. If I drop this phone and break it right now, I go buy another one. I don't care. It's the access to the data. The phone is just the delivery vehicle for that right now, or our computer screens. And everybody's all on the AI bandwagon. Obviously, we use AI a lot. Everybody does now, or starting to now. But it's not just AI. You don't realize what all data is processing through this. It's not just, as a matter of fact, I would argue most of these might not be for AI. They'll use a lot of these data centers around the country. They're using just to process the data that we use without the AI, just to make this show happen. One little bitty example is just to stream this show, how many data centers this data has to pass through. So anyway, I'll get off that tech soapbox for a minute.
So, a long time Benton people, Dr. Hewlett, and I'm assuming this was his wife. She got up and spoke. Dr. Hewlett, the vet up there from Benton, ever, does a lot with the horses out there, highly respected people in the community up there. And his wife got up and spoke, and I want to play a bit of what she had to say because she came up right after I spoke. So here we go.
My husband, a horse farm, we're owner managers there. My husband's been a veterinarian in Benton for over 40 years. Our property backs up within about a mile to the southern portion of the property that's in discussion. My education and background is actually in the field of toxicology, the study of poisons. So as I have learned more about this data center and started reading more, I have noticed that throughout the country, the biggest real worry is the contamination of water, that the water discharged from these data centers has been treated with biocides. Those are those chemicals that he spoke of, chlorine. It's also treated with molybdate and benzothiazoles, all which are toxic chemicals that can affect human health and aquatic life. That water also going in the cooling systems of these data centers are treated with corrosion inhibitors. These are also toxic chemicals that can concentrate this. They're using a closed loop cooling system, I've heard. So the water is recirculated through, and as it does, it becomes more concentrated with these chemicals. Also, as the water circulates through the computers, it picks up trace amounts of heavy metals, lead, nickel, zinc, I've got a list of them here, chromium. These all also.
Pretty much it doesn't get better. It's
Right.
it's
She's
as
painting a
bad
not
as
so
it can.
rosy picture.
Yeah. And so you heard her talking about closed loop systems and
Right.
things like that, in which all that's going to kind of come full circle here in just a minute. But I'm going to jump ahead again, and William Bradford comes back up, and this might be the best comments. I should have just started with this, but let's listen to William Bradford.
I want to say this, my children live here too. And I understand that there are a lot of concerns. There are a lot of efforts and misinformation out there that presumably have created a lot of distrust in this process. And so, I bring that to bear because one of the most important things that we can do is exactly what's happening right now, which is dialogue. And to answer directly some of the questions asked, there are a lot of questions surrounding health concerns. And a charge to you as a jury to hold us to that standard of safe health, public safety, and welfare. And there are rules in place, rules that we have committed to outperform. We've committed to improving processes along the way and to keep open lines of communication with your staff and with the departments that make decisions based on discharge and traffic and safety concerns related to that. We've already begun discussions with the sheriff's office on traffic mitigation plans. You have opportunities here to discuss, what are we going to do for the community? And it was brought up earlier that we're not paying any sales taxes. Well, a payment in lieu of tax arrangement structure is done in a public forum through a body, the Northwest Louisiana Finance Authority in this case. And of course, that document is public, but also one thing to be noted is that the state in 2025 passed legislation.
So I hate to stop him there, but a public body, Northwest Louisiana Finance Authority, but I don't answer. That's not my representative. These are my
can't vote them.
representatives.
Yeah, you can't vote them in.
I don't vote on those people.
Right.
I don't vote on any of those people. These are the people that I vote on. They're the people that are supposedly the only ones that can tax me or do anything regarding my taxes. But apparently not. Apparently, it's a new day and age, and we're allowing third parties that are unelected people to make determinations regarding taxes and our finances. Again, I'm not opposed to data centers. This isn't me trying to bash the data centers.
It's
but
the process.
It's the process is which I have a problem with. Don't like it at all.
I'm in agreement with you that they're unelected bureaucrats that are appointed, and and both you and I have been very clear. We're just not for the NDAs when it comes to public tax dollars and public bodies. Period. I know I 100% don't agree with them in that instance. If it's two private companies and they want to have NDAs signed between each other, I'm fine with that. But once you involve a public, whether it's an elected official or an appointed bureaucrat and public tax dollars, and that's the only way the government gets money, by the way, remember, is taxation. I've got a problem with the NDAs. Period.
Well,
Full stop.
I'm gonna show you something else here in a little bit about the NDAs because fortunately you're in luck. They're going to be going away, and but it's going to make you mad.
Uh-oh.
So, water guy comes up. We heard from Dr. Hewlett been talking about the toxicology, and she mentions the closed loop system and stuff. So the water guy comes up and gets into a little bit more detail. So pay attention here.
All right.
Yeah, thanks. Kevin Greer with Stack Infrastructure, Director of Wet Utilities. On some of the water questions, I think William answered, and our fact sheet do include figures, such as the full development will average about 57 million gallons a year. That use is typically in about 13% of the days. Amazon uses a very highly efficient evaporative cooling system to reduce the water consumption. In addition to that, there was discussion of a closed loop system and the potential contamination associated with it. So there's, as you can imagine, these are complex facilities with multiple cooling systems. There is a closed loop cooling system that does not utilize typical water. So that is a highly purified water, glycol mixed with anti-corrosion agents that does not ever get discharged to this through this system. So when that has to be replaced, it gets hauled off and treated at a facility specifically meant for that type of fluid. What we're talking about is the evaporative cooling system that does the majority of the cooling for the building. Best way I can describe it is as a large swamp cooler. And that's where there is basically no addition of chemicals beyond what controls the biological growth on that media, or if you're familiar with swamp coolers, like the padding. And so, yes, there are, two different systems. One is a closed loop system that does not get discharged. It does not impact water. The other does not actually add anything to the water. It just essentially evaporates some of the water.
So let me.
So did you caught that, right? So
science.
Yeah, they've got one system that's flowing a water that is not commingled with the water for the big cooling system that essentially cools all the buildings and all of that. And he says that water that's made up of all those chemicals to which Dr. Hewlett was talking about that flows through, and you're probably familiar with this being the tech guy, that's actually computers and all of that. It is collected. The manufacturer that manufactures it collects it, takes it back, and they process it. It
Right.
never goes through any drain, or it's not remediated on site and dumped out into the river. That's not what happens.
Again, I'm just using my boat factory, which there aren't any boat factories around here, I don't believe, close by, but oil change facilities or whatever their companies. I'm using Safety Clean as an example. I don't even know if they're still in business. I assume they are. But there are other companies as well that come in and pick up that hazmat. And then they, properly dispose of it, whether it's through incineration or whatever chemical processes they use. This is not uncommon. I mean, look, I'm pro oil field just as much as the next person, but let's not even get started on the oil fields. I know directly from being a past pipeline worker what goes on around there. And so I just am not up in arms about their processes here. I don't want to sound like a pitch man for Amazon and Jeff Bezos. I do use a lot of their services and products. I pay for those services and products, but this is going to rub some people the wrong way. I would trust Amazon, Google, Apple, etc., even Microsoft of all things, to be on top of everything and do the right thing here and run as efficiently and as cleanly as possible within legal regulations. I would trust them before I would trust most of the oil field. Now, that's going to rub some people the wrong way. And look, my dad worked for Halliburton for decades, and my younger brother worked for Halliburton for decades. My younger brother still works in the oil field. So I don't say that because I have anything against the oil field, but I can just tell you it's drastically different. So if y'all want to go get in a meeting and gripe about something, y'all need to show up at some of the oil field locations and go check them out and gripe to them, because you're being hypocritical if you get up there about this and they're literally explaining the processes, but yet you're turning a blind eye to that. It is what it is.
It is what it is. I mean, anyway, just when you start getting into the world of, low gravs and water and trace minerals and things like that. I mean, you heard Ruttenbuck talking in Bossier City about trying to go to the nanofiltration, and, there's a lot of difficulties in processing water, a lot of difficulties. So what these guys, and probably, there probably are some historical problems with some facilities that had some cooling where
Right.
they weren't using a process. But like you said, I mean, this company is one of the most advanced. They're tree huggers per se. I'm gonna call them that. I mean, I think they're going to be more responsible than anybody else in the industry. Anyway, let's get back to.
Yeah.
So I told you it was going to make you mad regarding the non-disclosure stuff, right? So there was another gentleman that was there that was representing Stack, and he's not their public speaker. I really don't remember what his name was or his role, but he makes a comment, and I want y'all to listen to this.
I got one question about the power. Would you be the one to answer that?
I might be. If you want to ask it, if not, we'll see if we can get somebody.
Well, I just want to know, I hear this power rates are going up and we're going to be building power plants. I've had people call me and all this kind of stuff. How much power are y'all going to use?
We're still working through the final determination, of that power. SWEPCO reps are here. Amanda, if I miss anything, feel free to jump in and correct me, please. But, within we have to go through a long process with SWEPCO that we have done. We have been in discussions with them for over 2 years now, as we go through that to make sure that they have capacity to serve.
Okay. Yeah, I recognize that. I recognize that guy from Blanchard. From the Blanchard
did you
meeting.
catch the two things he said?
Well, one, they haven't made the final determination on those numbers yet.
That was the first one, and people rightly said, well, how can you know that it won't affect electricity or consumption if you don't know how much you're going to need?
Right.
Seems to be fair.
It's a fair question.
The second thing was what's today's date?
Today's the 19th of March, 2026.
He said they've been working with SWEPCO for 2 years.
How long's, have y'all not counted the number of servers? This is pretty easy math. Let's count the number of servers. You know what their wattage demand is, and let's add that up, and plus the, lighting and all that, and whatever fixtures you need for offices, and let's just calculate. It's pretty simple math.
Yeah. Well, here. I'm not focusing so much on the electricity, but he said they've been working with SWEPCO for 2 years, right? Well, that would be 2024. That'd be the same year that the NDA bill.
That's Stephen Jackson bill that almost all of our Republican reps voted for. Oh, that bill?
Well, don't get carried away there, Dano, on that. But the thing is I'm just wondering what they all knew about the purpose of this bill, or did they know? Did they sign NDAs?
Were they literally putting the legal cart before the horse?
Well, I don't know, but interestingly, it may have been Miss Hewlett or one of the other speakers that comes up in a minute, and this was something, because I'd read this before, but I got to tell you, I have to admit, I missed it. But she said it in the meeting. The last section says, the provisions of this section shall terminate on January 1, 2028.
Oh. So they'll have
So,
to vote on a new bill to hide behind NDAs at that time.
well, but I'll jump forward to the lady that said this, and I'll let her say it.
Okay.
You. Furthermore, I want to note that the statute that allowed this body to operate under a non-disclosure agreement was only enacted in 2024. And I probably know as much about the Public Records Act as anybody in this room. Very unusually for a Public Records Act statute, that law sunsets on January 1st, 2028. I've never seen that before in a public record statute. It very much gives the impression that the fix was in, so to speak, for secrecy regarding these projects. Why else is it sunset in January 1st, 2028? And don't get me wrong, I'm all in favor of it going away because I think it was very poorly implemented. So in light of the fact that that statute allows this secrecy to continue on development projects until January 1st, 2028, if this subdivision of this property goes forward, can we get a commitment from this body that no further non-disclosure agreements will be signed for those properties so that the public can be informed, so that we can get ahead of potential problems? We can make potential problems known to y'all, because I'm not expecting y'all to be experts in all of this or any other industrial use. I don't think any of us are. That's why it takes everybody having a meaningful opportunity for input. So can we get that commitment? That's my question.
Crickets. Shall I cue up the crickets?
I guess it's too late. All right, thank y'all.
So, yeah. Good night, Ricky Bridges. I did. So look, here's my thoughts on this. And again, so somebody knew that this was coming, and 2 years ago, they passed legislation to keep it quiet and to keep it hush. And I'm not saying that they had nefarious reasons for doing it. I think probably, Stack or Amazon, they didn't want to spill the beans. They wanted to keep things under wraps. And so for whatever reason, they asked for this, and it was obliged. And then it had to be just for this. I don't think it was for carbon capture or anything like that, any of that crap going on. I think this was strictly about the data centers. And, I don't know. Do you think it's a good thing? Do you think it's a bad thing? But for the fact that it's expiring in 2 more years, that just tells me it was all about this.
Well, and again, it goes back to both your and my central point about these data centers. Our opposition is not with the data centers, it's with the process. And with the small caveat about my concern about the extra water being withdrawn from Caddo, but other than that, it's about the process, which includes these NDAs. I think you're definitely on track with that little rabbit hole there, Mr. Lowry.
Yeah, and the other thing is and I'll they had the vote and it passed unanimously.
Sure. Yeah.
But is there a road tax in the future of Bossier Parish?
What?
Well, just listen.
But I don't like to say one other thing. As president, I try to stay neutral because whatnot, but I feel remiss if one of my biggest jobs, and can I see by a show of hands, who would vote for a tax increase right now to cover the cost that we always run a deficit with, our roads, bridges, and everything else? Who would vote for a tax increase right now in Bossier Parish? Yep, there's one of you.
For roads, yes, we need better roads.
Well, my point,
River
my point being that I'm
raised his
trying to
hand.
make is, as a juror,
Yeah.
we have to think outside the
Mr.
box
Robbing Peter to pay Paul.
to bring things into our community. We do economic impacts. Coach Brotherton was bringing a national archery shoot here, and that's a 10-year deal. So every year that brings us a $2.5 million impact to this, that we can use those monies that does not cost.
I'm not going to torture people no more.
Please
but
don't.
He was trying to make an example of them doing things on behalf of the thing. And it seemed odd to me that you had asked the audience, would you all be in favor of a road tax? Just
Yeah, you jackwagons, to borrow your phrase, should already be taking care of the roads and maybe not spending it on other stuff that's not necessary. Hello, libraries. I'm not saying libraries in general aren't necessary. I'm saying the Bossier Parish Police Jury expending huge amounts of money on brand new libraries in the middle of nowhere and then taking control of them. Maybe if y'all diverted some of that money, I'm sure there's other places, back to the roads, you wouldn't have to ask people if they wanted to support another raise your taxes to improve the roads that you should already be taking care of.
well, look, I'm agreeing with you, but I'm not agreeing with you. A better example to solidify this thing is not the library. I mean, the library thing, the citizens of the parish voted on that. That's
Well,
one
that's true.
thing. But the consolidated waterworks sewer district thing,
Yeah, good
that's a
point.
different animal. That the way that was done was a choice by this police jury, not all of these jurors, but the police jury, that has cost the parish an extraordinary amount of money. And that's, if there's a shortfall on the money or availability of monies to be used for roads and stuff, I mean, it could be linked to that consolidated sewer district.
Yeah, that was a losing deal from the get-go.
Yeah, and speaking of sewer and water, I mean, I think we're going to have some good stuff in the hopper pretty soon on that, and get down in the weeds a little more on that, because not everybody seems to think that the police jury is actually been on the right side of all of that. And anyway, so but look, didn't want to turn this into a beating the police jury up. You know, I will say the way that they dealt with the public, I appreciated. They let everybody have their voice, say what they wanted to say. Everybody made the points and asked the questions that they wanted to. It might not have been the answers that they wanted to hear, but everybody got their 2 cents in it. And, you know, I'm biased. I trust in the data centers coming here, and I think it's going to be good for our community. That's my opinion based off of what I have seen and what I know. Other people I know don't feel the same way. But I think that these people have tried to answer the questions as best that they can. The water system thing and the showing the closed loop system and explaining that. I mean, that's I don't know. Did you hear that detail in Caddo?
With the closed loop, yeah, they did actually discuss some of that. I can't remember right off the top of my head, and I need to go back and finish the transcription of that and get all that posted, the transcribed version of that video as well, and post the whole transcription for everybody. I'm actually going to I'll do the same thing for this police jury. I mean, this is 3 hours and 15 minutes, so I'm going to transcribe and, do our little magic with the captions and publish this whole video, because they have it posted on Facebook. as a live video, which means it'll be deleted in 30 days. So we do have a copy of it, so this is not going away. And you won't have to request a copy from the police jury. We've got every right to be able to publish it if we want. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there while I was thinking about it.
Yeah, and so earlier you said all our Republicans voted for this and for this NDAs. Well, I actually made cuts. If you'll share my screen, I wanted to show y'all how your legislative delegation voted. And
let's see. There we go. Let's see. Let me expand this out just a second. Or yeah, if you can do that, that'll make it easier. Make it bigger. And let me see. Let me edit this little box. Hold on just a second. Something like that. Yeah, there we go.
Perfect. Okay, so the names that you would recognize, the yays on this, I see Bamberg, Bagley. These are your House legislators. Let's see here. Lines, Wright, Thompson, Taylor, Thompson, McMahon, Wayne McMahon from over in Mendon. The nays, that may be a little more. You got Mike Eccles. Look at old Eccles. He voted no. Rain Man, Mr. Twinkie himself, Chuck Owen, and Michael Mellerin voted no. And let's see here, absent. A lot of people were absent for that vote.
McCormick was absent.
Yeah. So that was coming out of the House. And then on the Senate side, you had yays. I don't see any of ours from up here.
Yeah, Bass is a nay. Let's see. Seaball is a nay. Okay.
Yeah, Thomas Presley.
Yeah.
He was against it. Blake Miguez was against it. So anyway, I would say I did the Northwest Louisiana delegation for the most part, as I can see, voted against it. And I would suspect that they voted against it just, from the standpoint of limited government type stuff, and that they didn't feel like that it was probably appropriate for, government to be not doing things out in the open. So I don't know what their reasons were at the time. I would love to, hear what their reasons were voting for it. I'd also like to know, did they know what the purpose was at that time?
Right.
And or were they subject to an NDA at that time? Don't know.
Yeah, very interesting. All right, Mr. Lowry, what else do we have to talk about tonight?
Just want to thank everybody for watching, and I don't know. I'm going to have to go back and watch that Bossier City Council meeting again, because I got to understand. I'm going to have to understand figure out what's going on with this Arts Council thing, because I don't know. How does Hammonds be wanting to hang these folks from the highest trees, and then all of a sudden flips?
Right. I don't quite understand that either.
That's more of a paradox to me than the water for the data centers.
I know. Maybe we need to see if Hammonds will come on, and maybe he can explain himself. But, maybe he won't. I mean, maybe he's beyond that. He'll just explain himself in city council meetings. I don't know. Seriously, we ought to ask him, because I haven't texted him or called him, to ask him, hey, what's up with that?
Well, I think I might call him tomorrow.
Yeah. Take Mr. Hammonds' temperature and see if he wants to come on and explain. Lots of people are confused, and we have questions. We've been on 2.5 hours, And we still got 55, 60 some odd people watching. I mean, like you said, we appreciate everybody watching and everybody, of course, your comments, even the people we disagree with, even the people we piss off. We appreciate all your commentary, and we would like for Mr. Hammonds to come on the show and spend just a few minutes, and explain what his back and forth was on that deal.
Yep. Sounds like a plan to me. Well, thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see y'all next week.
Sounds like a plan. I'm hitting the finish button in 3, 2, 1.